Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Fanfiction podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. Today, we're diving into a brand new story, Becoming a Member of the Strongest Familia by CA1 Piggy. Before we jump in, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. A new start. After his grandfather disappeared, Bell Cranel went to Rio to become an adventurer. Living in a cheap hotel, he went around to the various familiars. Even though the rabbit boy was rejected by everyone, he kept trying. It was Bell's third day in Rio. As he walked around the city, a large badass-looking Boaz walked up to him. Boaz, do you wish to join a familia? Bell, yes I do. Boaz, then follow me. Thus the rabbit boy followed the Boaz as he headed towards the entertainment district. As the rabbit boy followed the Boaz through the entertainment district, he was getting worried. Many scantily-clad Amazons made offers along the way, and many in the past have said that he was a pretty boy. So what type of strange familia could he be joining? Nevertheless, he continued to follow. With the large sword on his back, the Boaz did not look like someone to piss off. After some time, they reached a large complex. The rabbit boy remembered submitting his application there, but was immediately rejected. However, he did not recall which familia it was. After entering a large building, they eventually went into a large room. In the room was a very beautiful lady smiling at the rabbit boy. Lady, welcome. Young one. Heaven Bell saw the very beautiful lady sitting on a throne in a large room with super high ceiling. After she welcomed him, she continued to talk. Lady, come here, young one. Let me get a good look at you. Bell obediently followed her instructions. She was so beautiful and mesmerizing that it was hard to say no. Lady, you are so pure and clear, you are going to be my favorite, as she petted him and kissed him on the cheek. The kiss was so incredible that his cheek felt like it was burning. Bell had never felt something like this before, and he was positively totally in heaven. Lady, now it is time for me to give you my Falna. Follow me, as she led the blissful obedient Bell to an adjoining room. There was a bed on one side of the room, which also had a table and some other furniture. The lady told Bell to lie down on the bed and take off his shirt, which he happily complied. As he laid face down on his pillow, the lady sat next to him and put a drop of blood on his back for the Falna. After the Falna was complete, she held Bell's hand and guided him to his room. Lady, this is your room. My room is just next door, so you can visit me if you get lonely, making Bell embarrassed. Someone will come to help you get your luggage delivered here. Dinner is at 6 p.m. every day, and you will be sitting at my table. Bell then went into his room and looked at how nice it was compared to his cheap hotel. The furniture was expensive, and there was even a painting with several magic lamps which provided excellent lighting. There was also a balcony and a great view of the city as his room was on a high floor. Bell thought about how amazing his life had become. It was indeed a dream come true. Beginnings before Bell knew it, it was almost dinner time. When his luggage arrived, the staff woke him up from his short nap. Yes, it really happened. He was accepted in a familia, his room was amazing and his goddess was gorgeous. After a quick shower, it was time for the 6 p.m. dinner. He found the dining room and found his table with his goddess. There were 3 seats, for the goddess, the Boaz, and himself. Lady, well Bellcuin, you look refreshed. Great Bell, yes thank you. A staff member came by. Good evening, Lady Freya. What would you like to dinner tonight? Freya, I will have the fish, with some tomato soup. Staff member Lord Otter. And you, sir? Otter, the steak and potatoes. Staff member. And you, young man? Bell, I will have the fish and tomato soup also. Freya. Well Bellcuin, we were going to do introductions, but now it has been done for us. Bell, Goddess Freya, thank you for everything. Lord Otter, I hope to learn from you. Otter, tomorrow, you will register at the guild, and you will take a short training course. The dinner was delicious. There was not a great deal of conversation, but Bell did feel that many were looking at their table. The looks did not seem friendly, but he kept it to himself. After dinner, Bell received a tour of the complex from another staff member. He seemed the center of attention of the entire complex, but he was not sure why. The Freya complex was huge and very sophisticated, though kind of in a cool and aloof way. Nevertheless, Bell was really thankful for his new circumstances. After the tour, he retired in his room and went to bed early to be ready for the next day. The next morning, Bell woke up very early. He had an early breakfast, and a staff member took him to the guild. His dungeon advisor was a pretty half-elf named Aina. She was nice, but seemed very careful, particularly when his advisor was there. After the guild, he was taken back to the Freya complex. It was time for his introductory class. He was taught by a level 3 adventurer after he selected knives as his weapon. He received basic fundamental lessons on fighting, the dungeon, and even the city. After a long day of lessons, it was time for dinner. But he was told that he would be dining with his goddess in her suite that night. The dinner plans made him feel nervous but excited at the same time. He did not have to go into the dungeon to meet his beautiful goddess, but her beauty was really intense and mesmerizing at the same time. Freya. Dinner at Freya's suite was very nice. The mood was special with dinner by candlelight. And the food was even better than in the dining room. The main course was prawns and crab in a zesty sauce. Everything was so perfect, and Belle have never enjoyed such a luxurious meal. They talked a lot. Freya asked about his family, and Belle told her the sad story about his grandfather. Then it came to why Belle wanted to be an adventurer. Freya, so why did you come to Rio? Belle, I wanted to be an adventurer like my grandpa told me to. Freya, why do you want to be an adventurer? Belle was super embarrassed, but he was unable to lie. My grandfather said I should pick up pretty girls in the dungeon. Freya was amused. That is really cute. So is that the only place your grandfather told you to pick up pretty girls? Belle, we only discussed that though, Freya. So Belle Kuin, am I a pretty girl? Belle, but you are a goddess. Freya came closer to Belle. Am I a pretty goddess? Belle, yes you are. Freya, how pretty? Belle, very pretty. Freya, what did your grandfather said to do when you find a pretty girl? Belle blushed crimson red. He said I needed to save her so she will fall in love with me. Freya was enjoying the pure soul and asked further, so if she falls in love with you, what did your grandfather say to do? Belle, he said I could have a harem. Freya, so your grandfather is ambitious. Freya, Belkuin, so do you want me in your harem? Belle, but you are my goddess. Freya, would you want me in your harem if I am a normal girl? Belle looked down. Yes, Freya, so Belkuin, what do you think about me? Belle still looking down. You are really nice to me and you are really pretty. Freya, do you want to kiss me? Tomato red. Belle, yes Freya, so why don't you give me a kiss? Tomato red. Belle, but you are my goddess. I have to respect you. Pleased with the answers, Freya chose not to tease Belle anymore. And they were finished with the main course, the food, and not Belle. Dessert was a fruit souffle. Never having a souffle before, Belle did not know how to eat it. So Freya moved her seat next to Belle to teach him. After scooping out the middle and putting in the fruit, she fed him the delicious sweetness. It was a mesmerizing experience. 1 spoon for Belle, 1 spoon for Freya, another spoon for Belle, and another spoon for Freya. In Belle's blissful state, the idea of sharing a spoon did not even register to Belle, but they savored the soufflés. 1 spoon after another spoon, he was fed. After the last bite, there was a sizzling kiss on the cheek as the cherry on top. Seeing stars circling him, Belle was dumbfounded and unable to say anything. Freya, Belkuin, so the naughty boy likes his dessert. Now off you go to bed. Yet another hot sizzling kiss on the other cheek. Following directions, Belle went back to his room in a daze and a stupid smile on his face. Back in his room, Belle finally reflected on what happened. Could this really have happened? His goddess fed him dessert and they shared spoons. OMG. Nevertheless, he had a long day tomorrow as it would be his first day in the dungeon. So he had to control himself and get ready. After much struggling, he fell asleep. The next morning, Belle went down to the dining room for an early breakfast. His goddess and Lord Otter were not there, so he ate by himself. He did notice a lot of people were staring at him, and those did not seem like friendly stares. In particular, there was a cat person who looked at Belle with disdain. There were also a few Palums who were giving him the evil eye. What was going on? Palum 1, what a worthless weakling. What is he even doing here? Palum 2, I heard he was rejected but Otter went and fetched him later. Palum 3, I don't think he is here for adventuring. The goddess probably wanted a teddy bear to play with every night. Palum 2, I bet you he will not last a day in the dungeon. Palum 4, he is too precious to go in the dungeon. Palum 1 laughed. The goddess will probably have Otter guard her little boy toy precious. Boy toy. That was too much for Belle. The discussion was vile, and he knew he was nothing compared to these adventurers. However, the discussion continued to be really mean. Palum 2, how much you want to bet that he dies after 1 week? Palum 4, I rather bet whether he goes into the dungeon or not. Looks like he will cry if a monster comes at him. Palum 1 laughed. I bet he will wet his pants with the first goblin. Maybe we can pants him and see whether he is wearing diapers. The 4 Palums rot floor while humiliating Belle, who they knew could hear them. This was making Belle furious, but he did not want to cause trouble. However, he lost his appetite, so he left. Unfortunately, the 4 Palums noticed this and carefully tailed him. As Belle left the Freya complex, the 4 Palums followed him while keeping a good distance away. After passing through the busy entertainment district, they started running after Bell, who ran for his life. Even though Bell ran faster than he ever ran in his life, they eventually caught up to him. Humiliation as fast as Bell could run, the four Palums were faster. They were obviously advanced adventurers who quickly caught up to Bell. Unfortunately, they were in a quiet part of Orario when one of the Palums had the rabbit boy by his neck. The Palum who grabbed the struggling Bell, "You are pretty fast, bunny boy." Another Palum, "Let's see who wins the bet," pushing Bell face down onto the ground. No matter how much Bell struggled, it was hopeless. As one Palum grabbed onto Bell's two arms, another grabbed onto Bell's legs. A third Palum then pulled down Bell's pants. Bell bravely held in his tears while the humiliation continued. All he could do was to bite his lips and hold onto his pride. The Palum who pulled off Bell's pants, "Crap, no diaper." Another Palum, "LOL, you lost. Well, you get to put on his diaper then." Somehow, they had a white piece of cloth, and they fastened it to Bell's body like an adult diaper using some rope. Bell struggled the entire time, but that just earned him slaps on the head. Suddenly, a girl said sternly, "What is going on here?" As the Palums looked back, they saw a girl with golden hair and golden eyes. The Palum who held on Bell's hands, "Kenki, this is none of your business, Ais. Even if you are the Freya Familia, you cannot do that to Orario citizens." Another Palum, "Doll face, this is Familia business. Walk away or we will have some fun with you." Ais drew her sword. "You Gulliver brothers have no respect." Bell looked on while still being held down. Two of the brothers jumped at Ais, who quickly knocked both back with her sword. As their weapons clashed, the young girl had both brothers on the defensive. Then there were a few voices in the background. A female Ais, "There you are." A male Ais, "What is going on?" At that point, two Amazons and a werewolf approached with their weapons drawn. Seeing this, the four Palums quickly left, leaving Bell in a diaper on the ground. No longer held down, Bell rolled over. Then he saw the most beautiful, sweet-looking girl with golden hair and golden eyes looking right at him. She looked somewhat embarrassed, probably due to the state he was in. Ais gave Bell her hand to help him up. "Are you all right?" Realizing he was in a diaper in front of this beautiful girl of his dreams, Bell went into a state of shock. Even though she saved him, he could not believe he was in this most incredibly humiliating state. As blood rushed to his head, he ran for his life. Instead of taking her arm, he ran away without thanking her. Beat, Ais, what was going on with the Gulliver brothers? Wait, did I just see a grown boy with a diaper running away at lightning speed? Diaper boy Rotflortiona. Ais, are you okay? Ais, it seems they were bullying a young member of their familia. Beat, but Diaper boy did not even thank you for saving him. What a loser. LOL Tyon, the Freya familia is sure weird. Meanwhile, Bell ran away in the diaper looking for something to wear. Fortunately, her saviors quickly left and he was able to double back to get his pants. Having retrieved his pants, he quickly put it on. The humiliation was still making his heart race, but so was the beautiful girl with the golden hair and golden eyes. His goddess was stunningly beautiful, but the girl was so pretty. So pretty and so sweet looking, like the type he wanted to bring back home to show his grandpa. And she saved him, instead of him saving her. How ridiculous, but he realized that she was 1,000 times stronger than him. Nevertheless, he was in love and he wanted the Kenki as she was called. But now what was Bell going to do? How could he possibly return back to his familia? How would he face those four Palums? How would he face Lord Otter and Goddess Freya? Not knowing what to do, he headed for the dungeon, which was his original plan for the day. Motivation. Bell went into the dungeon for the first time. Following the earlier advice from Aina and his level 3 advisor, he did not go deep. He stayed in the first of March levels, killing mostly lizards, kobolds, and goblins. It was easier than he thought and he was good at it. Driven by his new desire for the Kenki and the shame of being weak, he wanted to be strong enough to be worthy of the Kenki. Within a few hours, he killed enough monsters to have a large bag of magic stones. In those few hours, he decided he was not going back to the Freya complex. He decided to get much stronger before setting foot back in the complex. Going to the guild to trade in his magic stones, he saw Aina there. Shocked with the amount of magic stones, Aina asked what happened. Though he did not tell her about those Palums, he told Aina about how the Kenki saved him from some bullies. Bell, so what about the Kenki? Aina, have you fallen for Ais Wallenstein? That is her name. Bell, no. Yes, I have. Aina, I can only tell you public information. That she is the central pillar of the Loki familia. That there has been 1,000 failed attempts at gaining her affection. I do not believe she has ever had a boyfriend and is more concerned with being strong, Aina continued. But Belle, you realize it is almost impossible for someone in the Freya Familia to date someone in the Loki Familia. They are the two strongest familiars, and there are rival familiars. Seeing the sad expression on Belle, Aina, but if you get stronger, you may catch her attention. That made Belle very happy as he left. Belle Aina, thank you, I love you, shocking Aina's colleagues and turning Aina's elf ears red. Armed with money, Belle happily went to the cheap hotel he was familiar with to get a room. Belle continued to live in the same hotel for about a week and continued to go into the dungeon to earn money every day. There were no more interactions with his familiar, but he did feel like someone was watching him. Belle also had some strange dreams every night. One recurring dream was that goddess Freya sneaked into his room at night. In the recurring dream, the goddess would update his status while giving him a kiss on the cheek. After the week was passed, Belle had gotten used to the 4th floor as he got better and better with his technique. It was now time to start entering the 5th floor. As Belle headed to the dungeon, a girl said something to him. "Girl, Mr. Adventurer, did you drop this?" Belle turned around and saw a girl holding a magic stone. Since he was not carrying any money, he was going to tell her no. But it was hard to say no to such a cute girl. "Girl, it must be yours. Please take it." As Belle was again about to say no, his stomach made a terrible noise. The girl giggled. "You must be hungry. Come with me and I will get you some food." He was really hungry because he skipped breakfast, so he followed the girl to a pub. "Girl, I am Syr. What is your name?" "Belle, hi Syr. I am Belle Syr. Nice to meet you, Belle. Wait here while I go inside to get you something." "Belle, all right, in a couple minutes." Syr came outside with a basket. "Belle, how do I repay you?" "Syr, come here for dinner tonight with your dungeon earnings. I work here." Realizing that he has been had, Belle agreed and headed off to the dungeon. It was Belle's first day on the 5th floor. As he continued killing monsters, he heard screams and the roaring of a fierce monster. Suddenly a large bull monster, a Minotaur, ran towards him. Minotaurs are not supposed to be on the 5th floor. Belle tried to fight off the monster, but it was far too strong. Terrified, he ran away from it but was eventually cornered in a dead end. It looked like the end, but suddenly a sword cut through the monster, splattering blood all over Belle. With the monster turning to dust, he saw a beautiful girl with golden hair and golden eyes, again. "Ais, are you all right?" Instead of talking, Belle ran for his life while cursing himself for running from his savior, again. Ais was left confused standing there with a pout on her face while one of her companions teased her about Diaper Boy. After his near-death experience, Belle went back to the guild to see Aina. His blood-covered appearance earned him a lecture. After cleaning up, Aina told him never to walk into the guild with blood all over him again. Even though she was shocked about a Minotaur on the 5th floor, she teased him about hopelessly running away from his crush again. Now it was time to go to dinner and he needed to keep the promise he made to Syr. After a short walk around town, he managed to find the pub that Syr worked in, the hostess of fertility. When he walked in, a happy Syr came up to him. Syr with big smile, "You came. I will take you to your table," dragging Belle by the hand. As they walked, a large dwarf lady came up to them. "Dwarf, so you are the one that Syr gave her breakfast to. She was really hungry, so you better order a lot of food to thank her for her sacrifice." "Dwarf, but you are a cute one. No wonder Syr gave you her breakfast," making Syr red and Belle speechless. "Dwarf, and I am Mia." After a lot of food was brought to Belle, he noticed a large group went into the restaurant. Ais was in the large group of what seemed to be very powerful adventurers, including a Palum, a dwarf, an elf, a werewolf, and 2 Amazons. They seemed to be in a merry mode celebrating something. As Belle ate, he could not help but hear what the large group was talking about. Apparently they were the executives of the Loki Familia and they just completed a deep dungeon mission. Then the topic of their conversation changed. Werewolf laughed. "Ais, are you going to tell us about the Diaper Boy?" making Belle cringe. Drastic measures. The werewolf pushed Ais for an answer. "Ais, are you going to tell us about the Diaper Boy?" Belle cringed while waiting for the answer. Ais calmly, "It was our fault that the Minotaur escaped to the 5th floor." The werewolf doubled down. "What an total loser. You saved him and the boy becomes tomato red in cow blood. And yet he runs away like a baby." And another female voice, "Bait, you are drunk. Be quiet and be respectful." Beat continued further. "If it was between me and that Diaper Boy, Ais, who would you choose to be your partner? Which one would wag your tail?" After the deluge of vulgar comments, Belle could not take it anymore and ran out of the pub. The Loki Familia noticed the running customer, and Ais noticed it was that boy. Feeling really bad and wanting to apologize, she ran after him, but stopped at the door as Belle ran away at record speed. After running from the restaurant, Belle was furious. He was angry with the werewolf, but he was the most angry at himself. He hated being weak, but he was the weakest of the weak. While furious, he went into the dungeon at night to take it out on himself and the monsters. AIS POV. AIS was furious with the drunk wolf, but seeing the young adventurer run off broke Mini-AIS' heart. Something broke inside her seeing Belle run off. She wanted to apologize to him for letting the Minotaur escape up to the 5th floor, but that beat was impossible. Inside the dungeon, Belle was out of control, and he went on a killing spree. He did not stop at the 5th floor, as he went all the way down to the 6th floor. After a long bloody battle with more than 10 war shadows, he went back up to the surface all cut up and bleeding. As he left the Babel, he fell unconscious but was caught by someone strong. In Belle's hotel room from Freya's POV. After Belle was brought to the hotel room, the goddess watched him sleep while updating his status. She had been watching her prized one for a week from afar since he left her complex. She was so incredibly angry when she discovered why Belle went missing. After an insanely scary interrogation of the Gulliver brothers, the punishment was the most severe ever given in her Familia. She was now very concerned but also thankful that Belle survived his crazy battle in the dungeon. Yet there was upside to what happened. Belle's soul was the most pure and clear to start with. While the diaper event clouded up his soul temporarily, something incredible happened after being saved by AIS Wallenstein. Whatever happened, it made Belle's soul shone more brilliantly that she could hardly believe it. To confirm his situation, the same night that Belle checked into his hotel, Freya secretly went inside his hotel room. She had to confirm her suspicions even if she had to use some drastic measures to put Belle to sleep from the outside. Freya then discovered that Belle gained something unique and unprecedented, a new skill called Lyra's Freeze. The skill caused unusually strong growth due to an extremely strong desire. So long as the desire continued to be extremely strong, the growth will continue accordingly. She realized that this skill had to be hidden from Belle and from the rest of Aurario. Indeed, with Belle's latest update, his status was already 1/3 of the way into level 1, something unthinkable given that Belle was only 10 days into level 1. And Freya knew this was the result of his special skill. It was all due to AIS Wallenstein. It pained her greatly and hurt her pride a lot, but she was sure of it. But yet, she gets to enjoy the purity and amazing brilliance due to the boy's enormous crush on the Kenki. She wished it was her, but there was nothing she could do short of using her arcanum. She could only watch and support Belle's growth, and she is going to have to tolerate the boy's crush on the rival Familia's ace. The next morning in the hotel room, Belle woke up, and when he opened his eyes, he was shocked. His goddess and Lord Otter were in his hotel room staring right at him. He remembered someone catching him while he fell after leaving the Babel, so that must have been Lord Otter. Freya, little one, you put a scare in me. Do not do that again. Belle goddess, I am sorry. Freya, I know why you left, and those responsible have been severely punished. That will never happen again. You are free to return to us when you are ready. I will not rush you, Belle goddess. I want to get stronger. Please give me some time. Freya, that is fine. You have time. I will visit you to update your status. Otter Belle, you need to find some other adventurer to form a party. It is safer and will allow you to go deeper. Belle, yes. Lord Otter. Freya, here is a copy of your status. As you can see, you have made incredible progress, so you have a lot of talent. Please do not waste it, and do not make me worry like that again. Belle, I am sorry I made you worried. Goddess Freya. Otter Belle, this is a gift from the goddess, giving Belle 2 beautiful all-black daggers with magic inscriptions on the blades. The weapons were clearly first-class weapons, and even Belle could tell that. Belle goddess, I do not deserve such special weapons. Freya, this is a gift from your goddess, so you should just receive them graciously and use them well. And furthermore, these blades are alive. They will grow with you. The stronger you get, the stronger the blades will get. Having had their say, Freya and Otter left. Belle looked at his body, and all the cuts and wounds have been healed. He could see the empty bottles of healing potions, so they must have treated him while he was unconscious. Now that Belle had his update, he was happy. He was 1/3 of the way to level 2, and he still had the confidence of Goddess Freya and Lord Otter. He is going to make them proud. The supporter remembering what Lord Otter told him, Belle started looking for a supporter. Later that day, he did run into a small girl supporter named Lily who was being bullied. After he stood up for her, she agreed to be his supporter. With Lily's help, Belle's earnings increased substantially. When he went into turn in his magic stones, Aina was quite impressed. Aina, Belle, this is really a big load, even for you. Belle, with Lily, my new supporter, we are able to combat more monsters and stronger monsters. Aina, are you sure about this supporter? I think I have seen her around before. I am not sure she is reliable. Which Familia is she from? Belle, she is from the Soma Familia. I trust her and we are good friends now. But Aina was not convinced. Remembering something strange about the Soma Familia, Aina started checking into the matter. To her dismay, she soon discovered that the Soma members worshipped their wine, which had essentially turned the members into crazed addicts. That made Aina very worried whether Lily can be trusted. At the hostess, after the guild, Belle went to have dinner. During his meal, Syr sat down to keep him company while her elf friend Ryu served their table. Syr asked Belle about reading, and Belle told her about heroic fairy tales and how he spent time with his grandfather. Syr was really impressed about Belle's love for reading and how close he was to his grandfather. Syr smiled. Well, I think someone left one of those books here. Would you like to borrow it? Syr pointed to a cabinet by the wall, so Belle went and found an old book. Belle was happy. Sure, I will return it after I finish reading. Syr, that would be fine. I hope you enjoy it. Later that night at his room, Belle was really looking forward to reading the book from Syr. As he lay down on his bed, he opened it up. Immediately, he noticed something was wrong as something started talking to him about magic. He quickly fell unconscious, and when he woke up, Freya and Otter were there. Belle, goddess, what happened? Freya, we came to check on you, and you were sleeping face down on your book. Belle, yes, I guess I fell asleep. Also noticing the book no longer had any text. Freya, let me do your status update, happily discovering that Belle now had magic. Freya, Belle, you now have a magic, an instant magic which is very rare. It is called Firebolt. You definitely have a lot of talent and your growth is really very fast. Otter, you should try it next time in the dungeon. To activate the magic, just say Firebolt. But do not overuse it because it can drain all your energy. The news of the magic made Belle very happy, though he worried about how to explain to Syr about the text disappearing from the book. After Freya and Otter left, Belle immediately went back to the dungeon to test out his new magic. He was really excited to have magic. Without fully understanding the risks of magic, Belle did not heed Otter's warning. He kept firing fire bolts at a group of goblins. As a result, he had a mine down on the second floor. Fortunately, Ais and Revisa were just returning from a deep mission. As they approached the second floor, they saw several goblins surrounding a down adventurer. As Ais rushed to slice up the goblins, she quickly discovered that the white hair boy was the victim. Aiso. Revisa, do you know him? Ais, we have never spoken, but this is the boy that beat humiliated in the hostess. Revisa, so this is the one. Ais, Revisa, I would like to apologize and make it up to him. Revisa smiled. You know, there are other ways to say that. But sure, if you want to make it up to him, then follow my directions. I will be returning to the surface. Thus the golden-haired girl with the golden eyes proceeded to rest Belle's head on her lap while her hand pet his hair. Petting Belle's hair was so soothing that it cleansed Ai's soul, and she really enjoyed it. The lap pillow also made Belle rest better, and after a while he woke up. Belle. While starting to notice someone was looking down at him. Belle, mom. Realizing it was a feminine form. Ais, I am not your mother. Belle, goddess. Ais, I am not your goddess. Triggering Belle to realize the predicament he was in, sweating profusely. All of the sudden, Belle rolled away and ran for his life, leaving Ais with an upset but cute pout. The same pout would be used on Revisa later that night while Ais got revenge for Revisa tricking her into doing something embarrassing. The next day, Belle had an appointment with Aina, who insisted on taking him to buy new armor. Belle desperately needed decent armor. After shopping at the Hephaestus shop, he found a light armor produced by a smith named Welf Crozo. The armor provided protection but did not affect his agility. Really happy with his new purchase, Belle was surprised to see that Aina had a gift for him, an armor protector. After the date, Belle went off to the dungeon with Lily. They were making more and more progress. Each night, Freya came by to give Belle an update as well as a goodnight peck on the cheek. After another 3 days, Belle was already halfway into level 1. The next morning, Belle met again with Lily and their plan was to reach the 9th floor. At the Babel, a short time after Belle and Lily headed down the dungeon, Aina had some work at the Babel. While walking around near the dungeon entrance, Aina heard several adventurers joke about how someone set a trap for a white-haired adventurer on the 9th floor. Immediately realizing they were talking about Belle, Aina was frantic, and started to look for someone to save Belle from the trap. Fortunately, Aina ran into Ais Wallenstein. Aina, Lady Wallenstein, there is a big favor that I must ask of you, Ais Miss Aina. How may I help Aina? I am afraid that one of the adventurers that I manage is being tricked. He is walking into a trap, could you please save him? Aina continued, he has white hair and red eyes, looks like a rabbit. Ais realized who Aina was talking about. Excited, she asked what was the name of the adventurer. Aina, his name is Bell Cranel. Actually, you have saved him a couple times before, but he never had a chance to thank you. Ais looking needy, is he scared of me? Surprised Aina, no, actually he really appreciates you saving him. He wanted to thank you. Ais, I will go save him. Aina continued, please hurry, he is on the 9th floor. Ais was really happy about what she learned. With a big happy smile, Ais flew down at warp speed towards the 9th floor. She got there just in time to see Bell battling a large number of orcs. To her surprise, he was fighting very well, and he was using instant chant attack magic. That really shocked her, as her aerial was the only instant magic that she was aware of. When Bell tripped, Ais came in to save him. She quickly sliced up the orcs without him even seeing her. As she diced up the orcs, Bell suddenly ran off in a big hurry. Realizing Bell probably had to help someone else, Ais once again lost her opportunity to apologize. However, she did find an arm protector that Bell dropped while fighting the orcs. Bell indeed went to save Lily, who was also betrayed by those who threatened her. Fortunately, Bell got there in time to save her from a large number of killer ants. Noticing how kind Bell was despite her betrayal, Lily cried and apologized. Now Bell realized that he had a true partner and supporter. When they returned to the surface, he squeezed Lily's ears as they walked, creating a large reaction. From afar, Freya watched jealously, seeing that Bell can be a real player. Ated meeting after saving Lily, Bell took her to eat dinner at the hostess, making Syr green with envy. The elf Ryu said something to tease Syr, but Bell did not notice the humor in Ryu's comment. The next day, Bell and Lily went back to the dungeon. The trust formed between them further improved their teamwork, and they eventually reached the 10th floor. At the end of the day, Aina was very pleased to see Bell when he went to exchange magic stones. Aina did question Bell and Lily, but Bell insisted that they had a breakthrough in their relationship. Aina then admonished Lily about what happened, and Lily apologized about her behavior. Aina also mentioned how many people can take advantage of Bell because of his kind nature. At that point, Lily promised Aina that she would protect Bell with all her power. That night, Freya and Otter went to Bell's hotel room. After giving Bell an update, Freya told him that he was already 60% of the way to level 2. Since it had only been 12 days after receiving his Falna, Freya realized that Lyra's freeze was working overtime. While it pained her every time she thinks about Ais Wallenstein, the results were incredible and Bell may become the one that helps move the age. The next morning, Ais went to the guild to talk to Aina after spending 2 days in the dungeon. Aina, Lady Wallenstein, it is good to see you. Ais, I did assist Bell that day on the 9th floor. He was handling himself quite well against a large group of orcs. I only assisted him when he tripped and fell, but he was doing quite well himself. Aina, that is good to hear. Thank you very much for saving him. Ais holding Bell's arm protector, Miss Aina, I found this item which Bell seemed to have dropped during his battle. Aina, thank you. I can return that to him. Ais slightly blushed. Actually, I would prefer to return that myself. But can you help me so that he does not run away? Aina blushed, understanding what the blushing Ais was requesting. Sure, Lady Wallenstein, I would be happy to help. I will make sure that boy talks to you properly. Aina starting thinking out loud. Perhaps I can set a time to go through dungeon lessons and get him in a private room where there is only one exit. At that point, Bell also went into the guild looking for Aina. When he looked around, he saw Aina talking with an adventurer. As he approached them, he noticed the adventurer was the Kenki, which instantly made him want to flee. When Bell turned to run, Aina screamed for Bell to stop. Aina, Bell, wait. Lady Wallenstein, catch him. Completely shocked, Bell ran as fast as he could, but there was a long stretch before the exit, and Ais was able to overtake him. As Bell was running as fast as he could, he was unable to avoid Ais when she jumped right in front of him. Bell was fortunate in that the collision was cushioned by Ai's ample bumpers, which though made him tomato red in embarrassment. Ais did have him in a bear hug by that point, so Bell was unable to attempt any other escape. Aina reached them soon after. Bell, how can you be so rude? Lady Wallenstein has something to say to you. You will talk to her properly. Bell looking down. Yes, Aina-san. following AIS to a private area. AIS handed the arm protector to him. "I believe this is yours." Bell accepted the items, realizing that she was the one who saved him when he fell down in the orcs' battle. AIS then bowed in front of Bell. "And I am sorry that I failed to stop that Minotaur from getting into the upper floors. That was my fault that almost caused you your life. I am also sorry for those in my Familia who may have offended you." Bell then immediately apologized himself for running away and not thanking AIS. After realizing how silly their mutual apologies were, they both laughed uncomfortably. Though the ice was broken, and AIS further commented on how impressive Bell was getting to the 9th floor so quickly. "Bell, but I am still an amateur and have a long way to go to reach my goal." AIS in a slight blush, "Would you like me to train you?" which shocked Bell. Despite being surprised, the opportunity to be trained by his crush was too much to ignore. Bell instantly accepted, and they agreed to meet the next morning on the city walls in a remote area. Having agreed to their training date, Bell went on to meet Lily. They soon descended together into the dungeon to gather more magic stones. Lily did notice that Bell was a bit preoccupied and was in a good mood. She was far too clever to come out and ask directly about the cause of the mood. The next day on the city walls, after a short chasing incident with an angry elf in Ais' Familia, Bell reached the city walls where AIS was already waiting. They discussed the best way to train, but ultimately decided to spar. The result was Bell being beaten to a pulp all day. Once, Bell was knocked out and was lying unconscious on the ground. That reminded AIS of their lap pillow in the dungeon and how she was humiliated by Revisa. Thus, deciding on revenge, AIS decided to give Bell another lap pillow to show that she could do it correctly. Her soft lap helped Bell recover faster along with her petting of his hair. Although when Bell woke up, he screamed and rolled away again, causing AIS some consternation. "AIS, do you not like that?" Bell, "Yes, no. I mean like it, but it is just very embarrassing." AIS, "So do you want me to give you another one?" Bell, "No, yes, but it is just too embarrassing when I am awake." AIS, "So it is all right if you are knocked out." Bell admitted yes. But he quickly noticed something in Ais' eyes and smile. They had 1 week to train. That was all the time AIS had, as her Familia had a deep mission planned. They would train in the mornings before heading their separate way for the afternoon. AIS was training someone in her Familia afterwards, while Bell went with Lily to the dungeon. The training was tough on Bell, and he was constantly knocked out and received many lap pillows. But Bell was progressing quickly. They learned a lot about each other, about how they both had a goal that they would reach no matter what. 2 days before the last day of training, Bell had all day to train because Lily had other plans in the afternoon. Thus they agreed to spend all day together. For lunch, they went to get potato snacks at a stand served by a short goddess with twin ponytails. The food was very good, but it did make AIS sleepy due to all the training she has been doing. "AIS, we should do nap training next." Bell, "Nap? Are you sleepy?" AIS looked serious but with a pout. "This is training." Defeated by the pout, Bell joined AIS in a nap while lying down on the ground. The intense situation made Freya want to scream from afar. She had been monitoring the training and was very pleased with the results, as confirmed by her nightly updates. However, the chemistry between the two was killing her. With Otter in the dungeon preparing some type of training for Bell, there was no one there to comfort her. After a few minutes, Bell turned to see that AIS already fell asleep next to him. Impressed with the first-class adventurer's instant nap ability, he started admiring her beauty from close in. In Bell's mind, his grandpa, "Bell, what are you waiting for? She is begging you to give her a little kiss." In Bell's mind, Freya, "Bell, that is not the type of behavior for my children." "Grandpa, Bell, come on, just a little kiss. It is almost rude not to kiss her now." As the two deities battled, Bell continued to be mesmerized by Ais' beauty. After Grandpa kicked away Freya, Bell leaned in close to AIS as he was inches from her lips. He could feel her breathe and the feeling was intense. At that point, AIS suddenly opened her eyes. That froze Bell as they looked eye to eye inches away from each other. That moment in time seemed to have lasted forever, but AIS eventually closed her eyes. What will Bell do now? Timeless time seemed to have stopped after a pink-cheeked AIS closed her eyes. Bell watched on as he admired his crush from inches away. As his body moved by itself, he kissed her softly on the lips. The tomato-red AIS did not resist or protest, so he stole a few more kisses from his crush. Freya was completely devastated. She knew this could eventually happen, but she did not expect it to happen so soon. With Otter in the dungeon preparing a test for Bell, there was no one to comfort her. Part of her wanted to be in a pillar of light going back to heaven, but she could not help but continued watching the two. After kissing, the Super Red Belle and Ais eventually got up, though both could no longer look each other in the eye. Their relationship had taken an irreversible turn. But they still had to train, and so they did. There were still more lap pillows to be had. After their training, they decided to go to dinner at the hostess. When the two walked into the hostess, the entire restaurant became quiet. One could literally hear a pin drop. Never in Rio has anyone seen Ais Wallenstein on dinner date alone with a boy, and any idiot could tell there was chemistry between the two. Syr was beyond green with envy while Ryu smirked at the popular boy. With Syr a mess, Ryu took care of the two for the dinner. Still unable to look each other in the eye, Belle and Ais talked all dinner about getting stronger and strategies in the dungeon. Eventually, the restaurant returned to its noisy state, but poor Syr could not regain her composure. After delivering their main course, Ryu did talk to the two for a short while and gave Belle some advice about how to level up. After dinner, they walked towards the Babel. They were able to hold hands in the dark, which added to the mood. When it was time to go home, Belle gave Ais a small kiss, and they said their good nights. That evening, Freya and Otter went to update Belle, and she was shocked by the latest jump in his stats. He had reached S for all his stats. The Kenki had apparently turbocharged his feelings. Belle was ready to level, but needed to achieve something worthy in the eyes of the gods. Apparently kissing Ais was not enough, and it had been only 20 days since receiving her Falna. Melancholy Freya, congratulations, little one. You have reached S in all your stats. You are more than ready to level once you have achieved some single accomplishment worthy of level 2. Belle, thank you for all your support, Goddess Freya. Freya, you will know it when the opportunity presents itself. Belle, yes, I will try my best. Otter, if something tough happens, remember what got you there in the first place. Do not give in to fear. Belle, yes, Lord Otter. On the last day of training, this was the day before Ais goes off on a deep expedition. Belle had improved tremendously during their training. He was able to react much faster and got a lot stronger. However, there continued to be many lap pillows and also another nap training. After more intense moments during their nap, it was time for their last sparring session. The sparring was more heated as Belle learned to defend using Ai's parry techniques. For the first time, he was able to counterattack, making a small scratch on Ai's breastplate. Surprised Ais, this is your first time counterattacking. I must now return to my Familia to get ready for the expedition. The two then headed back into town. Belle walked Ais to the Twilight Manor and found a private spot a block away. Belle looking serious, please be safe. Ais was happy with his concern, you too, be safe, and gave Belle a kiss for the first time. After which, there was a longer kiss before separating. What they did not notice was a certain elf that was spying on them in an extremely black mood. Belle then went to meet Lily for their afternoon dungeon session. His improvement resulted in more and more success. They made more and more money, as a smiling Aina was completely amazed by their progress. That night, Belle and Lily went to dinner at the hostess, earning more whispers from the waitresses at the pub. Syr was in disbelief about the start of a harem that Belle was building. Ryu then teased her about it being a harem of at least 3, making Syr upset. The next day, with training ended, Belle and Lily left early for the dungeon. When they reached the Babel, they saw a large number of Hephaestus members and Loki members waiting for the start of their mission. Belle was hoping to see Ais, but she had not yet arrived. Thus they headed down the dungeon and eventually reached the 10th floor. Suddenly, adventurers started screaming about a Minotaur. As Belle and Lily looked around, a powerful bull monster headed for them. With his PTSD trauma of bull monsters, Belle froze, unable to react, forcing Lily to push him aside when the Mino attacked. The fall injured Lily, and so Belle had to protect her. As he battled the bull, he screamed for Lily to run so that they could eventually escape. After Belle yelled at her to run, Lily ran away to find help. At that point, the Loki Familia executives was heading down the dungeon in 2 groups. The lead group included Finn, Revisa, Ais, Beat, Tiona, and Tyon. When they reached the 7th floor, there were adventurers running up screaming Minotaur. After some questioning, they told the Loki executives that the bull was attacking a white hair boy on the 10th floor when they ran away. Hearing that, Ais saw red and with the word Tempest in full aerial towards the 10th floor. When she reached the floor, she saw Lily, who pleaded with her to save Belsama. At that time, a large Boaz suddenly stood in the way. Ais, Lord Otter, I need to get through Otter Kenki. I cannot do that. My Familia is having a training session and we cannot allow you to interrupt the training. Desperate AIS, I must get through. Activating Ariel and even resorted to Lil Lafaga. However, Otter was able to resist her wind and actually knocked her back. At that point, Tiona, Tyon, and Beat caught up to them. As they converged on Otter, for Palams joined Otter in blocking their way. Otter, before we start a familiar war for the wrong reason, I know of your close relations with the boy, which shocked AIS and everyone else in the group. Otter continued, do not be concerned, we value him as much as you do. We are training him and will not allow him to be killed or injured badly. I can bring you to the battle, but you must not join in. At that time, Finn and Revisa arrived. Finn, that is fine. We will follow you. When they arrived, they saw Bell squaring off with the Mino, and there were already 4 people watching from a standoff distance away to avoid being noticed. When they saw who those 4 people were, they were shocked. Being a hero when the Loki executives followed Otter to the battle, they were shocked by the 4 who were already watching the fight. There were 2 deities in the dungeon. Freya and Hermes were in the dungeon flanked by Alan the cat person and Asfi. After getting over their initial shock, they turned back to watch Bell fight. It was obvious that Bell was injured as his armor was gone. He was essentially shirtless and his arm was covered with blood. However, he was having an intense fight with the Mino despite his injuries. The battle seemed to have gone on for a long time. Hermes and Freya were both in ecstasy watching the battle, thinking about the hero of the age. Even though the boy was much weaker than they were, the huge group of first-class adventurers could not help but watch. It is exhilarating, incredible, amazing, and took their breath away. For some reason, Bell seemed to be fighting more like an advanced level 2, but they knew he was only a level 1. His technique was good thanks to AIS, and his instant chant Firebolt surprised the Loki executives and the Gulliver brothers. But it was more than the technique and the magic. It was his bravery and will to fight. Tiona compared Bell to the Argonaut, and the Amazon sisters started to fangirl about Bell. Beat, the one who humiliated Bell, was stuttering about how could it be possible. The Gulliver brothers, fresh from their severe punishment, were also shocked to see how much the newbie improved in a few weeks. They thought he had quit, but they then realized that Bell must have been working continuously. Many were even suspecting Freya may have used her arcanum on her favorite. But in their heart, they knew the truth, as Bell's bravery made the hair stand up on the back of their necks. Perhaps 30 minutes later, Bell managed to cut off the arm of the Minotaur, making it desperate. As it tried to charge, Bell jumped to its backside and stabbed it with his dual black blades. Conducting firebolt through his knives, he caused severe damage to the Mino. And after 3 firebolts through the blades, the monster exploded like a balloon, leaving a horn and a magic stone. After the battle, Bell stood motionless apparently in a mind zero. Everyone was speechless and in awe of the level 1's battle. Though Lily quickly ran to Bell, and AIS also went to check on her unofficial boyfriend. Being able to read the hieroglyphs on his exposed back, AIS quickly realized that Bell was SS and SSS in all his stats, which was impossible. At that point, Otter used a potion on Bell while Freya gave him a quick update. After the update, Freya was very pleased, and had Otter carry Bell princess style. With everyone shocked about Bell's performance and the presence of 2 deities in the dungeon, there was an awkward silence. Finn finally broke the ice. Freya-sama, Hermes-sama, may I inquire why you are in the dungeon? Freya, I wanted to see my new talented member in battle, so I am blocking my aura. Hermes, someone asked me to check on the boy, so here I am. Some think he could be the new hero for the age. Finn was surprised by Hermes' words, new hero. But he is a level 1. Freya announced with a smile, well, Bell is now the new record holder. He just reached level 2 after this battle. It has only been about 3 weeks after receiving my Falna, shocking everyone even more. Finn, well, that is good news. We do have a mission, so we must now take our leave. Freya, would you mind if we join you on your mission? Finn, Freya-sama, as you are probably aware, we are heading for the 59th floor. Freya, yes we know, but my members are here to protect me. Revisa, what about the boy? Even with his level up, the 59th floor is far too dangerous for him and also for you and Lord Hermes. Hermes, that is fine. I trust Freya's members can protect us. We will already be in trouble, so may as well have the most fun we can. Otter, we want the boy to see what real battles are like, so we will bring him there. Finn, well certainly we could use the help, so we are grateful for your company. The group then headed down the dungeon. They decided to have lunch in Revisa. By the time they reached Revisa, Bell woke up in Otter's arms. Otter, good morning Bell, giving Bell a potion for recovery. Freya in a disguise, little one, you fought like a hero. I am very proud of you. Bell was surprised and slightly disappointed to see Otter, as he had gotten used to waking up on the Sword Princess's lap. Said disappointment was not missed by Otter. Otter, we are traveling with the Loki Familia to the 59th floor. I trust you would be happy to accompany them after that. Freya gave Bell a copy of his stats, including a new skill called Argonaut. Happy Freya, congratulations on being the fastest ever to level 2. You are the new record holder. Level 1 strength, 1350 endurance, 1381 agility, 1508 dexterity, 1327 magic, 1482 magic, firebolt level 2 strength, 0 endurance, 0 agility, 0 dexterity, 0 magic, 0 skill, Argonaut magic, firebolt development ability. Luck. Freya then explained that Argonaut offered the opportunity to change the tide of the battle with a hero's strike. When Bell asked how to use it, Otter told him that it would become apparent when the skill is needed. As they walked through Revisa, the idea of the two most powerful familiars in a joint mission was unthinkable. But no one was about to say anything to the large gathering of first-class adventurers. After a short lunch, the huge group set off again. They did leave Lily in a pricey hotel in Revisa because they did not want to subject her to unnecessary risk. On the way down, with the Freya executives there, Ais kept her distance from her unofficial boyfriend. Though Tyon and Tiona were questioning her and teased her about the situation, Revisa also joined in on the teasing, as everyone wanted to know how far Belle and Ais have gone. The teasing was quickly silenced when the pout was used. They did encounter a lot of monsters as they continued on their mission, but those monsters did not stand much of a chance. Belle did get more opportunities against other level 2 monsters, including more Minotaurs. However, the leveling immediately made the battles against Minotaurs much easier. When the group reached the Water City, there were adventurers screaming that the Amphispina was rampaging. As the first-class adventurers prepared for battle, Otter noticed there were white sparkles forming around Belle's hand. Soon, the Amphispina used its breathe weapon, forcing everyone to jump away, except Belle. Instinctively, he launched an enormous white-hot firebolt at the monster that was much larger than his normal firebolt. The enhanced firebolt won against the breathe weapon. The magic blew away one of the heads of the monster while damaging the other. Taking advantage of the situation, Tiona and Tyon jumped in and quickly turned the monster into a magic stone and a liver. Argonaut. After the battle, everyone was wondering how a new level 2 could have possibly launched such a powerful magic that basically one-shot the level 5 floor boss. Particularly salty about it was an elf friend of Ais, who was steamed with the rookie's growing list of impossible accomplishments. As they continued down the dungeon, Otter and Freya gave Belle more guidance. Otter, what happened back there was your Argonaut skill. Those white sparkles showed that you were gathering strength, and it unleashed the power in your magic attacks. If you had more time to charge up, you would likely have delivered an even larger attack. Freya, young one, I believe you can do the same with your physical attacks. Otter, when we return to the surface, you will need proper training to use the skill. Your Argonaut skill seems to be a lot like a mage chanting. Bell nodded when they gave him more advice, but even he was shocked at what happened with the success against the floor boss. While they talked, Hermes was beside himself. He was even more convinced that the boy was the new hero of the age. The power of the Argonaut attack was something that a first-class mage may be unable to deliver. As they continued to go deeper into the dungeon, the big group assumed a more cautious posture. With monsters becoming at least level 3, Belle was no longer allowed to physically engage monsters. Freya and Hermes were positioned in the middle of the group, surrounded by Otter, Asfi, and Alan. The Gulliver brothers, fresh from their punishment, were put in charge of protecting Belle and the Mags, Lefia and Revisa. Ais, Tiona, and Beat were in the vanguard, while Finn, Tyon, and Gareth were in the rear guard with the junior Loki members and the Smiths from the Hephaestus Familia. With the enormous group, they bulldozed even the largest collections of monsters. Limited to firebolts, Belle saved his magic to help Ais from remote. When it looked like there were too many monsters around her, Belle would launch his magic to assist. By the end of the day, the group reached their goal, the 36th floor. As the lower-level members set up camp and cooked dinner, Freya gave Belle an update inside their tent to determine the effects from defeating the Amphispina and other monsters. Level 2 strength, 39 endurance, 33 agility, 45 dexterity, 32 magic, 188 skill, Argonaut magic, firebolt development ability. Luck. Bell was very happy with the big jump in magic stats, though he did not realize how significant the smaller improvement in the other stats were. At that point, someone called from outside their tent. It was Finn, Revisa, Gareth, and Ais who wanted to have a talk with Freya, Otter and Belle. Finn, Goddess Freya, I hope you are finding your accommodations comfortable. Freya, braver, thank you, but it is fine. I have lived in battlefield camps during Mars' silly invasions. Revisa, I must admit that we never expected to share dinner with the executives from the Freya Familia in this situation. It was even more surprising to see a level 1 defeat a Minotaur by himself, and then nearly one-shot a level 5 floor boss like some type of magic cannon. Otter, we only planned to train Belle. So this was not expected for us either. We thank you for allowing us to join in your expedition. This is a great opportunity. And Belle will get a great education from this expedition. Finn, about Belle, he is a level 2, but what he did against the Amphisbaena was far beyond a level 2. Freya, your use of the term cannon is quite apartment. Belle is a level 2, but his physical talents are obvious in the fight with the Minotaur. However, we will share a secret with you, and this information is highly confidential. With his new level 2, he gained a skill called Argonaut that allows him to deliver a hero's strike. The force of that hero's strike is unknown to us, though it is clearly many levels above his level. Otter, so Belle may actually be helpful against a powerful foe. But he has to be protected like we would protect mags. There is a strength gathering time period. The longer the time, the stronger the attack. We are not sure what is the limit to the attack or the charging process. Revisa, we will definitely keep his secret confidential. Do we know how long Belle was charging against the Amphisbaena? Belle, I am not sure. Otter, it was about 2 minutes. There seemed to be white sparkles around him when he is charging. I suspect more charging would have improved the results. Freya, using the skill did take a lot out of him, so there is a limit to how often it is used. Finn, it would be good for us to understand more. Otter, we will be practicing after dinner to try to learn more about it. At that point, it was time for dinner. As Finn, Revisa, and Gareth ate with Freya and Hermes, Belle was able to sit with Ais. While the food was decent, the company was much better. Ais, that was an amazing attack you did against the floor boss. I am really proud of you, Belle. Thank you, Ais. I still do not understand what is going on. Ais, well, with Lord Otter teaching you, you will be fine. Belle, sweet talking, but I prefer my other teacher, making Ais blush deeply. Ais, tomato red, I want to keep training with you also, but we cannot take naps here, hinting that can be no kisses with everyone around. Belle, can we train after dinner? Ais, sure, but I think they want to test your Argonaut skill. At that point, the troublemakers, Tiona and Tyon, inserted themselves between the Belle and Ais. Tiona, so, little Argonaut, you are so amazing, making Belle confused and red. Tyon, little Argonaut, you are so cute like a bunny. No wonder Ais has taken a liking to you, making both Belle and Ais fidget. Tiona, grabbing Belle's arm. Argonaut Kuan, you must teach us how to level so quickly. Tyon, with her assets close to Belle's face. Argonaut, you really must teach us. Again making Belle tomato red. Watching the madness, Ais was getting jealous and mini Ais was steamed. Upset Ais, hey, he is mine. If you want one, you have to find one yourself. Tiona smiled possessive, aren't we? Tomato red Ais, yes, he has fluffy hair and is cuddly. Tyon teased cuddly, while messing with the helpless Belle's hair. Ais, hey, hands off. Tiona laughed, come on, Ais, you need to share with your sisters. Watching Belle and the girls from the far side was a steamed elf, Revisa. She was in shock about the rookie getting all the attention from all 3 of her sisters. And she knew far too much. She was the Loki member chasing Belle when he ran away after she asked him if he saw Ais. She saw the lewd lap pillowing and the indecent petting. She saw the indirect kisses from the shared food. Then she saw the obscene napping and the real and unforgivable kisses. She watched them on their steamy dinner date from outside the hostess windows. She saw the wanton hand holding in the dark. She wanted to give Belle a piece of her mind for stealing Ais away. Fortunately for Revisa, even Freya was getting jealous beyond repair. Recognizing this, Otter called Belle over for a short talk about training. While Belle went to talk to Otter and Freya, Ais chased the 2 crazed Amazons around the camp. It was going to be a beating they would not forget. Lord Hermes, quietly observing, was smiling about the number of girls in Belle's harem. What about Emmy? After dinner was finished and the Amazons punished, it was time for training. The executives wanted to see Belle's Argonaut strike, and they gathered around as he tried to charge up. The first time, no sparkles and nothing happened. The second time, no sparkles and nothing happened. The third time, still nothing. Then a 4th time, a 5th time, and a 10th time. Nothing. Tiona, oh no, has little Argonaut gone impotent? Tyon, it seems Argonaut cannot get it up. I mean his power amused Freya. Belle, try to relax and think about what you want to protect most, while fearing the worst about what Belle would be thinking about. Thus, Belle collected himself, took a few deep breaths and closed his eyes. He thought about everything that mattered most to him. His grandpa, who he was unable to protect. His advisor Aina, who took care of him. His friends at the hostess. Lord Otter, who protected him. Lily, who was like a little sister. His kind and beautiful goddess who kisses him on the cheeks. Then, of course, it was his crush, idol, and unofficial girlfriend Ais and their first kiss. After gathering his feelings, Bell opened his eyes and the white sparkles started forming around his arms. The charging went on for 3 minutes, then stopped by itself. He then released an enormous white-hot firebolt, which did an incredible amount of damage to the target area. Indeed, it was a bigger attack than what he used against the Amphispina. It seemed to roughly have the power of Reviria's spells but focused into narrow beam-like Arc's ray. Tiona Fangold, wow, it's a gusher. Tyon Fangold, wow, Bell may be the most powerful man ever. Freya thought, smiling, those two Amazons are fun. Too bad they are not in my familia. Tsubaki the Amazon smith thought with evil grin, only 2 times a day. But wow, what 2 glorious explosions they are. Lefia looked even sadder and more frustrated in a foul black mood. Gulliver Brothers looked down in shame, as did Alan. Beat's hair at the back of his neck stood up again. Finn, wow, Reviria, incredible power. Gareth, good one. Lad Otter, Bell, that was a big success, but you need to rest now, giving him a recovery potion. Ais went up to Bell really happy and hugged him. Bell, you did great. After launching the magic attack, Bell was very weak even after the potion. While it was not a mind down, it was close. Freya, this is the 2nd time he used this today, but that may be the limit, at least for now. With Bell still feeling very tired, Freya rested his head on her lap. Bell had never received a lap pillow from his goddess before. When he looked up, he became tomato red with a close-up view of his ample goddess. Being a good boy, he just laid there, closed his eyes and relaxed. Then he quickly fell asleep. Poor Ais had to watch the intimate lap pillow, but Freya was his goddess. Mini Ais was crying and would have been apoplectic if she petted his hair. Missing nothing, Freya noted Ai's reaction. Though she planted her flag, she was not about to start trouble with Bell's unofficial girlfriend. After Otter carried Bell off to a tent, they did more mission planning. After Freya and Otter were briefed in detail about the jewel fetus, they realized the level of the threat to Aura Rio and everyone in it. So they made several decisions. 1. Freya and Hermes would be left on the 50th safe floor with Asfi and the 4 Gulliver brothers along with the junior Loki members and the junior Hephaestus Smiths. 2. The attack group would consist of Finn, Otter, Alan, Gareth, Reviria, Ais, Bell, Tiona, Tyon, Beat, Tsubaki the 5th level Smith, Lefia, and Raoul. 3. Argonaut is a potential game changer. They needed to save it for when it really mattered. Bell would only use Argonaut on parasitized monsters but not lesser monsters like Valgang dragons or even standard floor bosses. Bell and the mags would be guarded by Alan and Otter. The next morning, after a good night of sleep, Bell was refreshed. Before breakfast, Freya gave him a final status update: level 2 strength, 39 endurance, 66 agility, 45 dexterity, 32 magic, 213 skill, Argonaut magic, firebolt development ability. Luck and Bell was really hungry. Spotting the Argonaut, the 2 Amazons immediately grabbed onto Bell, drawing Ai's ire again. As the 4 continued their comedy act, Lefia just could not take it anymore. Her suffering was simply too intense. Lefia, in tears, yelled on the top of her lungs, "What about me?" That scream resonated and quieted the 2 Amazons, a near impossibility. As all eyes were on Lefia, she realized she had everyone's undivided attention. Tiona, Lefia, you want in on the Argonaut also? Lefia was shocked by the suggestion but did not know how to respond. If she said no, then everyone would wonder why she screamed. Would others realize her hidden unspeakable feelings for Ais? If she said yes, what would everyone think? Would Bell hit on her like the playboy and make her join the harem? As Lefia hedged, Ais pouted. Lefia, Bell is mine. You sisters need to get your own. With Ari's declaration, she lost it. Lefia realized the only way to keep Bell away from Ais was to claim him for herself. Thus, with the desperation, she did the unthinkable. The kiss was not as repulsive as Lefia expected. In fact, the kiss was kind of nice as Bell's lips were soft and he smelled good. Furthermore, the feeling from her first kiss was kind of otherworldly, causing her eyes to roll around and around in circles. With her head spinning, she suddenly realized that she was starting to actually enjoy it. That was simply unacceptable. Lefia really wanted to give Belle a piece of her mind about stealing AIS, but instead she gave Belle her first kiss, and it was a big wet one right on the lips. What was worse, she was starting to really sink into the kiss. With the last vestige of her elf pride, Lefia pulled herself back from the deep kiss. Tomato Red Belle, the victim, was too shocked to move. AIS was speechless, as were the Amazon twins. Beat, rolling his eyes, had nothing to say. Finn and Revisa had pained looks. Gareth closed his eyes. Raoul cringed and looked away. Sabaki licked her lips, a few times. Otter remained stoic while Freya looked amused though deeply pained inside. Asfi blushed and looked down. Even Hermes was at a loss for words except 2 short chuckles with the unanticipated entertainment. In a strange way, the kiss did have a calming effect on Lefia. It was as if Belle's pureness cleansed away her black mood. With the black mood diminished, Lefia looked meekly around and noticed everyone's jaws dropped to the ground. No one knew what to say. Thankfully, Gareth finally broke the silence. Well, that was a good stress relief. Ha ha ha, Finn, all right. Ladies, Harem King, everyone, we got a job to do. Let's head out. In spite of the elf eruption, the merry group headed down the dungeon. With Belle next to Lefia and Revisa in the same formation, it was awkward indeed. Ais and Tiona were up in the vanguard, but they did not know what to say to each other. It was awkward all the way around. Despite the strange morale, the group quickly reached the 50th floor, as Coliseum simply became a great way for the affected to take out their frustrations. The lower-level members would set up a base camp while the members of the attack group would try to relax before the major operation. According to their plan, Freya, Hermes, Asfi, the Gulliver brothers and the junior Loki and Hephaestus members would stay in the base camp while the attack group would descend to the 59th floor the next day. After an awkward lunch, a teary Lefia apologized to her sisters. Lefia in tears, I am so sorry. I just got frustrated and lost control. AIS, that is fine, Lefia. I did not realize you even know Belle, Lefia. I do not. I was just frustrated that you would only pay attention to him. AIS, Lefia. I will always protect you. So would Tiona and Tyon. While I have feelings for Belle, that does not change how I feel about my sisters. Tiona, you are a silly one, but you got to kiss Argonaut. As Ais bashed her on the head with her scabbard. With that said and done, there was a group hug between the 4 sisters. Belle heard what was said, but he did not know what to think about the crazy elf. So he wisely kept his distance for the rest of the evening. Finn and Otter did advise Belle on what to expect on the trip to the 59th floor. In particular, which monsters and the types of attacks. They also explained the strategy to hold Belle back from the battles in order to keep the cannon primed. Belle was not to get involved unless it is a matter of life or death. Ideally, he would save whatever energy he had for parasitized monsters. The first-class adventurers should be able to take care of everything else. The next morning, the attack group was ready, and Revisa activated Veil Breathe. After the protective spell was applied, they headed down to the 51st floor. Ais, Tiona, Tyon, and Beat were up front. Belle, Lefia, and Revisa were in the middle with Otter and Alan guarding them. Bringing up the rear were Finn, Gareth, Raoul, and Sabaki. The 51st floor had lots of powerful monsters including black rhinos and Virgus. But the group was ready. They quickly raced to the 52nd floor, cutting through the monsters like butter. However, the Valgang dragons detected their new prey and started firing fireballs all the way from the 58th floor. Dodging the fireballs with Finn's special ability, they moved forward as fast as they could. As they hurried forward, a giant spider tried to capture an unsuspecting Lefia. Fortunately, Belle saw the spider webbing heading for Lefia and pushed her out of harm. However, Belle instead got himself caught by the webbing. As he was drawn towards the monster, Belle killed it with 10 firebolts in quick succession. However, Belle fell towards a vertical hole that was just formed by a dragon's fireball. Seeing this, Otter and Alan jumped in after Belle. Ais quickly activated Ariel and followed, as did Tiona and Tyon. Revisa, so much for our plan. Finn, Beat, stay with us. They have enough manpower down there, but let's get down there as fast as we can, signaling everyone to move again. Being saved by a rookie, Lefia was sick to her stomach again. She was scared, but that was just too much to take. Deciding she could be more useful below as a mage, Lefia took a deep breath and also jumped in after Belle. Descend as Belle fell through the vertical hole, he could see the hole extended past many floors. Recalling what Finn and Otter taught him, the hole would likely originate at the 58th floor. He then heard Otter yelling to him. Otter, slow yourself down by extending your arms and legs. We need to catch up to you. As Bell followed Otter's instructions, his increased drag did the trick. As he slowed down, the others closed the distance between them. Of course, Ais in full aerial was the first to reach him. Caught by Ais, Bell was again in a princess carry. With Ariel unable to lift all of them back up in a safe fashion, they decided instead to use it to slow their descent. The group soon managed to synchronize themselves so they would land at the same time, but suddenly they saw Lefia plummeting towards them, screaming and totally out of control. Fortunately, Tiona was able to catch her as she dropped like a rock in yet another princess carry. The slow descent also gave Lefia time to chant Fusillade Phalarica. They timed it so that her spell could be activated right before landing. Just in case, Otter again reminded Bell to save Argonaut for a more desperate situation, and this was not it. As they entered the huge black graphite cavern that was the 58th floor, Lefia quickly finished chanting as she saw hordes of dragons and Virga. When the spell took effect, the monsters in the enormous room were decimated. Tiona and Tyon cheered, but that was premature. Virgas continued to stream in from the 57th floor entrance while Valgang dragons kept respawning. Otter had Alan stay as the bodyguard for Bell and Lefia while he started attacking the respawning dragons. Tiona and Tyon then focused on the Virga entering from above, while Ais took off in aerial to cut down whichever monsters that got by their defense. Working together, they were just able to keep control of the monsters without expending any more magic. After a while, it was getting tiring, but fortunately, Finn's group soon reached the floor. With everyone back together, they were able to kill the monsters that showed up while they decided what to do on the 59th floor. First, Finn was surprised by the temperature, as he expected the 58th floor to be quite cold due to the records from the Zeus familiars about glacial conditions on the 59th floor. Apparently, the conditions had changed, so they lightened some of their load, including warm clothing such as salamander wool. Second, Finn had Tsubaki do maintenance on their weapons, which had cut down numerous monsters. Third, Reveria reapplied Veil Breathe to provide limited protection. Finally, they had some quick lunch and recovery potions. Once preparations were complete, they then headed to the 59th floor entrance. Indeed, the floor was not glacial at all, but warm and humid with dense vegetation. They started walking around to look for any signs of the enemy, or why Revis would say Ais can get answers on this floor. After some distance, they saw a vast plain with lots of Virgas heading towards a central area with two huge plants. Realizing this was probably their goal, they started towards the area where all the monsters were converging at. When they got closer, they saw that both plants were eating the Virgas for their magic stones. With a seemingly endless supply of Virga, those plant monsters must have become incredibly powerful. Suddenly, both plants started transforming and gave off horrible shrieking sounds. After a short time, the top segment of both plant monsters transformed into top halves of beautiful girls. Both monsters recognized Ais and called out to her, Aria, 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 come join us. Let us devour you. Ais realized that the monsters were spirits, as did the rest of Loki executives. Seeing Ari's shock reaction, Bell realized that there could be a link between Ais and those spirits. As the two spirits continued to consume the magic stones of the Virgas, Finn also figured out that the purpose of the Virgas were to serve as a food supply for the Demi-spirits. Thus, some master plan may be in action where the recent events in the dungeon may only be scratching the surface of what is really behind this. Otter, Beat, Tiona, Tyon, and Ais then started racing towards the enemy. However, Finn's thumb told him to stop. And the thumb was correct, as both Demi-spirits appeared to be chanting magic spells. Finn's thumb was correct again. Realizing that the two Demi-spirits were chanting magic, Finn made critical defensive adjustments. Finn, wait everyone, it is using magic. Reveria, use your defensive spell. Everyone, come under the protection of Reveria's shield spell. Thus, it became a chanting race as Reveria started chanting via Shilheim. Finn, use everything we have. Stop them from chanting. Bell, that includes you. Following instructions, Bell started charging while Raoul and Tsubaki launched magic sword attacks, but the Demi-spirits' protective layers prevented any damage or even interruption of their chanting. Lefia soon launched Fusillade Phalarica, which also proved useless against the spirits' protective layers. Seeing that one of the Demi-spirits was almost done with chanting, Bell focused his attack on that Demi-spirit even though he only charged for 2 minutes. The damage was still very significant, as it burned off the protective leaves and severely burning it. Even though Bell did stop its chanting, the Demi-spirit already started to regenerate. By that point, Reviria's Via Shilheim spell was activated, protecting everyone under her magic shield. That was just in time, as the other demi-spirit was done chanting, launching a firestorm at them. The spell was enormously powerful. Under pressure from the firestorm, Reviria's shield started to crack. Acting quickly, Lefia activated Dio Grail as an additional defense. That was just in time, as the firestorm broke Reviria's shield. Gareth and Otter then jumped in front of everyone carrying large shields as additional backup. And the additional backup was needed after Dio Grail also failed under the enormous pressure of the firestorm. With Gareth and Otter's combined effort, everyone got through the attack with only minor burns. However, immediately after launching its attack, the same demi-spirit started chanting again. Unfortunately, Reviria was unable to gather energy quickly enough for another shield. Thus everyone prepared as well as they could for another powerful spell. Soon enough, the demi-spirit launched Meteor Swarm at them. Lefia was able to provide limited protection with another Dio Grail, but that was not nearly enough. Even with Gareth and Otter trying to shield everyone again with the large shields, that only lessened the blow. The meteor storm explosions impacted, scattering their bodies all over. After launching two enormous spells, that demi-spirit's two flowers opened up and started absorbing power from the remaining Virgus on the floor. At the same time, the regenerating demi-spirit was also completely regenerated and started to chant. Seeing the desperation, with everyone injured and many possibly unconscious or worse, Bell realized that he had to fight to protect Ais and everyone. While unable to get up from the damage, he gathered all his emotions to start charging Argonaut again. Only this time, the sound of a grand bell ringing echoed through the entire floor, signifying that the limit was off for this Argonaut use. He put everything he had left into his Argonaut charge. Thus it became a race between Bell charging and the regenerated demi-spirit chanting. It was going to be close. Bell knew he had to fire before the demi-spirit could launch its magic. But every second of charging meant a more potent cannon. With the grand bell sounding, it also provided encouragement for everyone to get up. Otter and Finn were the first to rise, and they appealed to everyone else to rise and fight as well. Finn challenged Bell, a level 2, is loading his cannon and leading us with his sheer willpower. Will you just lie there and let him fight alone? Or are the heroics of Bell Cranel too much for you to bear? The challenge issued by Finn was the encouragement needed to get everyone else to rise. First it was Beat who could not stomach being bested by Bell, then Ais who was going to protect Bell and her friends, then the Amazon twins and Alan, followed by Gareth, Reviria, and finally Raoul and Tsubaki. Ready to fight, Reviria ignored defense and started chanting her most powerful attack spell. Finn and Otter then led a charge with Ais, Gareth, Beat, Alan, Tiona, and Tyon following their lead. That left Tsubaki and Raoul to stand guard to protect Bell, Lefia, and Reviria while they used their magic. Seeing Virgus arriving from 60th floor, Lefia also started chanting her Fusillade Phalarica. Fortunately, Bell was able to finish his limit off charging before the demi-spirit finished chanting. The enormous firebolt burned off most of the regenerated demi-spirit. But that was it for Bell, as he collapsed from a mind zero. Reviria soon finished with chanting Ria Levitine. Her firestorm heavily damaged the demi-spirit that had just finished absorbing power and finished off the demi-spirit that was heavily damaged by Bell. Lefia also finished her Fusillade Phalarica chant, which killed off the new Virgus on the floor, denying the remaining demi-spirit of additional energy supply. As the situation seemed improved, suddenly a green wall appeared from magic below the 59th floor, shielding the remaining demi-spirit, which was regenerating from Reviria's attack. Finn, Tiona, Tyon, Beat, and Alan were unable to penetrate the green wall with their weapons. Otter and Gareth then joined in and punched an opening for the group, though getting hit by attacking plant appendages in the process. That knocked Gareth down, but Otter continued through the opening, followed by Finn, Beat, Alan, Tiona, Tyon, and Ais. When the demi-spirit used Thunder Ray, Tyon and Tiona used their bodies to shield Ais and the others from the attack. With Tiona and Tyon knocked out, Finn everyone opened the way for Ais and Otter to attack. Under Finn's leadership, Beat and Alan occupied the demi-spirit's main defensive appendages. As they were knocked down one after another, Otter and Ais charged through. Otter attacked the body while Ais focused on the spirit half-body using aerial. Ais slashed at the demi-spirit with Desperate, but its appendages protected and knocked Ais back against the wall. Determined, Ais charged forward again, but the demi-spirit launched Icicle Edge at Ais. Fortunately, Lefia used her remaining magic to intercept the icicle with Arc's Ray, freeing Ais to attack the monster. With Lefia clearing her way, Ais used her finishing move Lil Rafaga. The Demi-spirit countered with light burst, but Lil Faga broke through and cut down the Demi-spirit, turning it into dust. With the Demi-spirits defeated, the group cheered and used healing potions and recovery potions. Seeing the burnt-out battlefield, they decided to go back up to the 50th floor. It was critical that the information about the Demi-spirits reached Orario. Tsubaki was glad to be the one princess carrying Belle back up, and that allowed the fighters to focus on fighting their way through. Far from the action, the invisible Hermes and Asfi were monitoring the action and soaking in the entertainment. Hermes was incredulous with accolades for the group. His monologue included the bravest leadership, the king's sheer strength, sword princess's wind, record holder's cannon, Amazon sisters sacrificing their bodies, Lefia's arcs ray and 9 hells fire. The return trip Freya was relieved to see the group returning at the end of the day. Looking for Belle, she found Tsubaki princess carrying Belle, with a naughty sparkle in her eyes. Ais, also noticing the same, gladly took over for Tsubaki and proceeded to use her lap as a pillow for her unconscious Belle. As she petted his hair, his purity really cleansed her battlefield stress while Freya cried a little inside. Fin goddess Freya, we were successful thanks much to Otter and Belle. Freya, that is good to hear, Otter, thanks to the Loki Familia. The battle was the most glorious I have ever experienced. Freya, what happened to Belle? Revisa, he is mined down. He gave us everything we had, Gareth. The lad was the star and his bravery inspired us all. Tiona and Tyon. We would not have survived without little Argonaut and his big cannon. Earning a smirk from Freya. Fin, as we were near defeat, Belle led the counterattack with his cannon. Revisa, the cannon was fired twice. The second time was different than what we have witnessed. It was more powerful, and the battlefield rang with a loud grand bell as he gathered strength, inspiring our fallen bodies to get up and fight. Fin, yes, his second use of the Argonaut power was far more powerful than we have seen. While it did not completely destroy a monster that was clearly above level 7, it changed the tide of our battle. Twice Freya, that is impressive. I wished I would have witnessed that. Of course, Hermes, you enjoyed that entertainment to yourself. Hermes took off his Hades hat. Yes, it was the most grand battle that I, Hermes, has ever witnessed. Asfi, in an embarrassed pout, he forced me to take him, earning a head pat from Hermes. Deciding to stop Ais from planting her flag, Freya, Kenki, I am going to update Belle's status in the tent. Could you please carry him there for me? Defeated, Ais did as instructed and followed Freya to her tent. Following protocol, Ais voluntarily left the tent to give the goddess her privacy with her child. Even as his unofficial girlfriend, she did not have the right to see his status stats without permission. Freya was very pleased with the update, as strange as the stats were: level 2 strength, 43 endurance, 157 agility, 50 dexterity, 51 magic, 548 skill, Argonaut magic, firebolt development ability. Luck indeed, Belle could have leveled with his incredible magic stats and his deeds which inspired the gods. Of course, Freya would advise that he wait on leveling. Especially with Lyaris Freeze, he should wait until his stats reach their level 1 levels. She was going to make sure her new star reach his fullest potential. She quickly gave Belle a tender kiss on both cheeks before rejoining the others. Freya announced to the group that must have been quite some battle. Belle already qualifies for level 3-inch Fin. Belle deserves level 3 after that battle. And everyone agreed with that assessment. Even Lefia agreed with Belle's accomplishments, even though it would already and painfully match her lifetime accomplishment. Freya, well, he can level, but we will wait for his other stats to catch up to his magic first. Revisa, that is a wise decision, as he is far more than a mage like myself, as Lefia found herself also agreeing that statement. Fin, all right, let rest here tonight and start our return trip tomorrow, as everyone cheered in agreement. The next morning, Belle woke up really refreshed, but he is famished from all the fighting. But suddenly remembering the battle, he immediately jumped up but found himself in the tent on the 50th floor. He got up and ran outside the tent. Gareth, you decided to finally wake up, lad. Come join us for breakfast. Tiona teased little Argonaut. Come sit with us. Ais has been waiting for the one she loves deeply, making Ais blush tomato red. Belle looked at Otter and Freya, but they gave him the okay. Thus he sat with the girls who immediately started to molest him. The comedy act had reignited again, with the two Amazons and Ais all over Belle the little Argonaut. Lefia had not quite joined the act, as she was on the side trying to drag her sisters off of the Argonaut. Fin interrupted the mess of humanity in the monkey pile. Don't you girls think you should tell Belle what happened on the battlefield? I am sure Belle wants to know. Remembering that Belle went mind zero, Ais and Tiona retold the events of the battle, impressing Belle about how heroic everyone was, just like in the story books. Otter Belle, you did well. Finn Belle, we would likely have lost without you. Thank you for joining our party. Belle, thank you. I hope to have the opportunity to join you on future expeditions. Freya, little one, when you are done playing with the silly girls, please come to me to discuss your level 3 plans. Belle, level 3. Freya, yes. And that did the trick, as Belle's curiosity took him away from the arms of the 3 competing girls. After Freya's explanation, Belle agreed to follow his goddess' suggestion to wait for his status to climb. After breakfast, it was time to return. However, on the way back, the rear of their formation was attacked by a large number of poison vermis. Unfortunately, most of the lower-level members were affected. Tyon suggested heading to the safe areas on the lower floors, and thus Finn gave the order to head for the 18th floor. Those who were unaffected had to carry the sick members on their march. Fortunately, the major fighters were healthy, and they were able to clear the way back up. While the Colosseums were more difficult with the sick members, they were able to make it through with more intense use of magic spells from Lefia and Revisa. When they reached the 18th floor, they set up camp to take care of the sick. Finn immediately sent Beat and Alan back to the surface to bring back medicine. Thus, while waiting for the medicine to arrive, the healthy members had some time for relaxation when they were not tending to the sick. Towards that end, the girls were planning to take a bath. Rest and relaxation. The girls went for their bath, but of course posted guards to make sure there was no peeping. With Reviria's high elf status, it was inconvenient for her to bathe, so she served as one of the guards, though Lily gladly joined in when she learned of their return. Hermes thought it was rather interesting and went to talk to Belle. Belle, I need to have a man-to-man talk with you. That made Belle sort of confused, but he followed Hermes, who led the way. The path they took was kind of strange, particularly as Hermes started climbing a tree. Despite Belle's question about the need for such strange measures, Hermes insisted that it was important for them to go to a private location. As they got near the end of the branch, Hermes smiled and pointed down. Following Hermes's finger, Belle looked down, and there were many beauties bathing and splashing water at each other. Completely flustered, Belle tried to drag Hermes out of their prime peeking spot. He knew they had committed an unspeakable taboo, but Hermes refused to budge. As they struggled, Belle fell from the tree branch right into the water. With the loud splash, all the girls turned their attention to the brazen offender. With little Argonaut being a brave peeper, it immediately became a surreal situation. Turns out Belle landed near Freya, who was not embarrassed but actually rather glad with her eager child. Little one, did you come for some maternal attention? Come here, little hero. As tomato-red Belle thought about escaping, Freya put him in a bear hug with his face in her ample bosom. While shocked by the goddess-loving stance, Belle did manage to escape from the tender embrace. As Belle tried to run for his life, he found himself surrounded by 3 Amazons, Tiona, Tyon, and Tsubaki. They had naughty looks, with hands eager to catch the little Argonaut. Making a break for it, he tried to split the gap between Tsubaki and Tiona. Unfortunately, the 5th-level Tsubaki was too quick for him. As her arms entwined around the rookie, she happily gave Belle some maternal loving of her own. Captured in Tsubaki's enormous bosom, Belle screamed, but his voice was muffled by large melons. Tsubaki laughed. Little Argonaut, you came to peep, so we are going to give you your money's worth. At that point, Tiona and Tyon had joined in on the Argonaut hunt, so all 3 Amazons were in a monkey pile with the helpless rookie. The bystanders, Ais, Lily, Asfi, and Lefia, were speechless and embarrassed. Ais was thinking how Belle could have become so forward. Lily could not believe that Belle would be able to bring himself to peep. Asfi got suspicious about the whole affair. After covering herself a little, Lefia was furious with Belle, but the situation was so ridiculous with the Amazons that she did not know whether to chant Arc's Ray or to watch the Amazon entertainment. Especially, it appeared Belle was captured and unable to free himself from the pile of womanhood. Seeing how much fun the Amazons were having, Freya jumped in. The mess of humanity continued to grab, hug and twist around in shallow water until Belle managed to free himself. As he used his rabbit skills, he raced out of the pile, but ran right into the shocked Lefia. As they fell over, their lips accidentally met, making the other girls jealous. Belle, sorry everyone, I am so sorry, as he again headed towards a potential escape. Unfortunately, the 3 Amazons and the amused goddess were having too much fun to let him go. As they chased him, Belle tried to use his agility to maneuver around his pursuers. While he twisted and turned, he eventually herded himself towards Ais, and his eyes were filled with her nude beauty. Completely embarrassed, she looked down but did not cover herself up from Belle's eyes. Belle Ais, please help me escape. Abiding by her unofficial boyfriend's request, Ais tried to block the way of the other ladies. Unfortunately, she was betrayed by the two Amazons twins who overpowered Ais working together. As Ais screamed at her two sisters who jumped on her, Belle turned to check if his unofficial girlfriend was all right. Unfortunately, that gave Tsubaki and Freya the time to catch the rookie. As Belle screamed for help, Ais tried again to help. Unfortunately, Tiona and Tyon pushed Ais and Lefia into the monkey pile and then quickly joining in themselves. At the end, it was a huge mess with one rookie, one goddess, 3 Amazons, 1 elf and 1 princess wrestling in the monkey pile. For some reason, the girls started a competition for Belle's armor pieces, as the armor pieces would logically be valuable and sentimental souvenirs given the recorder holder's critical role in the historic battle. As for the struggle for victory in the monkey pile, it was Ais on top of Belle some of the time, while Tiona soon replaced her position. And then Tyon got the jump on Belle, but then the goddess would enjoy her time on the top. Throughout the scandalous affair, Belle's scream for help was not answered. All that time, Lily and Asfi continued to watch the spectacle, but decided to stay away from the unspeakable mess. Hermes, still on the tree, enjoyed the unique entertainment, but was finally spotted by Asfi, who chased and caught the offending god. Realizing the involvement of the naughty god, Revisa finally decided to stop the debauchery. As she chanted Win Fimbul Vita, everyone in the monkey pile was threatened with the spell which would put them in the deep freeze. That threat worked, as the rookie hero was extracted from the monkey pile. It was then time for the interrogation of Belle and Hermes. Evidence Belle and Hermes had to answer for the peeping incident. The lead ladies asking the questions were Revisa, a high elf, Freya, the only goddess available in the dungeon, Asfi, the well-respected captain of the Hermes Familia, and Lefia, who was the youngest victim. Asfi's suspicion that Hermes was the mastermind was the first matter to be investigated. Thus, Hermes went first while Belle awaited his fate. The interrogation was severe as Asfi first tied up Hermes, punched him till his face was all swollen and then hung him upside down. Asfi started the questioning. Hermes-sama, I am sure you appreciate the seriousness of this matter. Many who were bathing were under 18. 2 were under 16. Hermes, well, they are not too young to get married. Then another punch and another oh. Asfi, bad answer. Next question. Was it your idea or Belle's idea to peep? Hermes, it was neither of our idea to peep. I wanted to have a private discussion with Belle about the future, so I wanted a secure location. As you can imagine, the end of a tree branch would afford us the privacy I desired. Of course, I had no idea that the ladies were bathing under the tree. There were no signs there indicating bathing underway, do not peep. So I had no idea. Then another punch and another oh. Asfi, another bad answer. Everyone knew the ladies were going to bathe. You found the only vantage point that was not secured to circumvent the defensive perimeter set around the bathing area. The severity of the swelling on Hermes' face was starting to make others worry. Revisa, did Belle have any idea that girls were bathing around the area? Hermes, we never discussed it. He was following me. Revisa, Belle followed you climbing up a tree without questioning why. Hermes, yes, Belle did question that. He was confused, but I told him the same thing I told you. I wanted us to talk privately, and the end of a tree branch seemed like the most secure location. Lefia, why did Belle jump into the water? Not only did he peep, but he brazenly jumped into the middle of the bathing area. Hermes, well, we realized we were in the bathing area. Belle got concerned and tried to leave. But he lost his balance and fell in. Freya, how does a super-talented level 2 lose his balance? Hermes, well, Belle got worried when he saw the ladies. He immediately tried to leave, but I was sitting between Belle and the way back. He lost his balance in his rush to leave. Asfi, you mean you did not want to leave, but Belle did? Hermes, no man would want to leave such a wonderful view. But Belle was just nervous like the rabbit we all know. Asfi, so you are saying Belle had no intent of peeping and immediately tried to leave when he saw the ladies bathing? Hermes, yes, that is totally true, making a few of the ladies unhappy. Freya, whereas you are claiming you were not aware of the ladies bathing, but, let's just say, you were not in as big a hurry to leave given the view. Hermes, that is what I am saying. Another punch and another hour after a short private chat, the ladies had Hermes removed and then Belle was brought in for questioning. Asfi, Belle, whose idea was it to peep? Belle, no one actually said to peep. Hermes-sama told me he wanted to talk to me in private. Asfi, but did it not seem weird for you to have to climb a tree to talk privately? Belle, yes, it did. I asked Hermes-sama about it, but he indicated that it was more private up the tree. So I followed Asfi. Did you know ladies were bathing in the area? Bell, yes I did. Asfi, you never considered that the tree branch was a good location to peep. Bell, no, I did not think about that, Lefia. So when you got to the top of the tree, what happened? Bell, Humisama pointed down below. When I looked, I saw the ladies bathing. I freaked out. I then fell into the water after trying to get around Hermes-sama. Lefia, did Hermes ever said he wanted to peep? Bell, no Lefia, did Hermes say he wanted to stay there when it was clear that girls were bathing below? Bell, no Revisa, then why did you have to get around Hermes? Bell, I wanted to leave immediately, but he was slow to move. Revisa, then why did you run around the ladies when you landed? Bell, I wanted to leave immediately, but many got the wrong idea that I wanted to be there. Revisa, can you promise to keep the peeping incident confidential? Bell, yes, with that. The 4 girls went to deliberate on what evidence they gathered. The decision, the tribunal of 4 weighed the evidence and made their ruling. As the proceeding was treated as a civil matter, the burden of proof was less severe. First it was Hermes, and a lot was discussed about the god's past record, including prior peeping attempts. First, Hermes was ruled not guilty on intent to peep due to lack of evidence. Second, he was ruled guilty on all the other counts, peeping on 2 youths under 16, causing a minor to peep, disrupting the peace, and causing mental anguish to innocent parties. The penalties for Hermes were 1. A large fee, 5 million Velas, to be paid solely by Hermes himself. That meant the naughty god had to work himself to pay for the penalty instead of using funds from his familia's coffers. His punishment schedule would be under the supervision of another god, Freya. 2. Public caning for 2 spanks each by each victim's 3. Sealing his mouth with magic adhesive for 1 week. His mouth would only be freed for eating and drinking. This would be supervised by Sv and a member of the guild to be assigned later. For the first time, Hermes actually looked troubled. That was particularly with the 3rd penalty. He suspected he could eventually cut a deal with Freya for the first, while Sv has desensitized him to physical punishment for the 2nd. Then it was Bell's turn. Bell was ruled to be innocent of all of the initial counts, intent to peeping on 2 youths under 16, and causing mental anguish to innocent parties. However, he was ruled to be guilty of incidental peeping, though there was no significant penalty. The only requirement was that Bell had to promise to keep all information about the peeping incident confidential. He agreed not to describe what he saw in any way, whether in words, in drawings, or even using hand motions. After the ruling, the caning was performed by Sv, Ais, Tiona, Tyon, Tsubaki, Lily and Lefia, while Freya elected to forgive Hermes. The caning did not seem to have the desired effect, as Hermes seemed to have enjoyed it from the pretty girls. That was particularly troubling for Lefia while she delivered the punishment. The remaining punishment would be applied at the guild when they return. Their return to the surface still had to wait for the medicine to arrive. Beat and Alan left a day before, thus it would be expected that at least another day would be needed. While they took turns tending to the patients, they still had some time for themselves. But first they did prepare a feast for the evening. And it was quite a feast, with the restaurants from Revisa helping out. With Finn, Revisa and Gareth again entertaining Freya and Otter, Gareth got very drunk. With Freya and Otter busy with the Loki senior executives, Bell got to eat with Ais again. It was still very awkward between the two as the peeping happened only hours earlier. Even as an unofficial couple, Bell was too embarrassed because he saw everything, and Ais was too embarrassed because there was nothing left to imagination. And the idea of being in the pile of naked meat with Bell in the middle was really shameful. Nevertheless, they agreed to go into Revisa together tomorrow so Ais could show Bell around the town. The next day, as Bell and Ais went on their date, 3 conspirators carefully tailed them in search of entertainment. Fortunately, the couple knew better than to hold hands in public, but that did not stop the 3 conspirators from hoping for a good show. However, the entertainment arrived at the end of the day from Beat, who just returned from the surface to deliver the medicine. Beat ran all over Revisa to find the couple after learning about the peeping incident from some junior members of the Loki Familia. Fuming Beat, is it true that Bunny Boy saw you? Ais embarrassed furious Beat, he did, that bastard. Anguished Beat, how can you manage to peep when I still have not all these years? As Beat screamed at Bell, Tiona and Tyon had to come out of hiding to drag him back to camp. Realizing her cover was blown, Revisa quickly left the area before Bell and Ais could discover her hiding place. The group headed back the next day as the medicine did the trick. Everyone had enough of the dungeon, and it was good to go home. Freya updated Belle's status after they got home. Level 2 Strength, 84 Endurance, 193 Agility, 105 Dexterity, 77 Magic, 569 Skill, Argonaut Magic, Firebolt Development Ability. Luck. After the update, Freya gave Belle another hot kiss on the cheek. That kiss immediately reminded Belle about the maternal loving on the 18th floor and the full reveal of the goddess. Denatus. After returning from the historic mission to the 59th floor, there was much a buzz in Rio. Due to the imminent threat of the Demi-spirits, the Denatus schedule was pushed up for a couple weeks. In the meeting, Loki replaced Hermes, who was originally scheduled as chair because of Hermes' inability to talk with his mouth glued shut. Also, with the primary topic being the new threat, it made sense for Loki to run the meeting. Finn was front and center in the presentation, with Otto was next to him. That surprised many when they realized that it was a joint operation involving the two top familiars. Finn. The parasitization process is started when a dual fetus merges with a monster. The monster then undergoes a metamorphosis and becomes much more powerful. We believe that is because the dual fetus is an offspring of a corrupted spirit. If the merged being is fed an enormous amount of high-quality magic stones, then it may evolve into a demi-spirit, a half-spirit, half-monster being with enormous magic powers and regeneration abilities. The two that we fought were able to cast extremely powerful magic spells before harvesting magic energy from nearby monsters. We estimate the attack spells to be similar to those from a level 7 mage. Otto, we were fortunate to be able to defeat those two monsters. Loki, I believe there could be more of these dual fetus from a source that is deep in the dungeon. Based on the word of a hybrid human monster that was killed by my Familia, their goal is the destruction of Rio by simultaneously smuggling multiple demi-spirits and other monsters to the surface. The entire meeting erupted with this ominous information. The gods quickly formed a committee to combat this threat. In addition to Loki, Freya, Hermes, and Hephaestus, Ganesha and Ais were also getting involved. What was not stated was that Loki and Freya suspected one or more gods were involved in the demi-spirit threat, but disclosing the general information unfortunately did not flush anyone out. After the serious business, there was a rough explanation for Hermes' punishment, which was cheered by many goddesses. Of course, Loki skipped over the part where the peeping happened in the dungeon. It was then time for the fun part of the Denatus. There were some incredibly bad nicknames given, including Takes Mikoto being named Zetsu Ei. However, no one dared confront Loki's favorite when it came to Ais Wallenstein's nickname, which was kept as Sword Princess. Then it came to Freya's new favorite. Loki, well, now we have the new record holder Apollo less than 1 month. Are we serious? Freya, actually it was 3 weeks, Finn, and we were there to witness the level 1 event when he defeated a Minotaur by his own strength, which made everyone gasp. Finn, I, braver, would gladly serve as a reference for Bell Cranel. Even though he was a level 2, he went down with us to the 59th floor, and he delivered 2 magic attacks, each of which changed the course of the battle, also skillfully avoiding the information that Freya updated Belle inside the dungeon. Apollo, how could that be? When there are far higher level adventurers in your party, including yourself and 9 Hells. Finn, I will not disclose Bell Cranel's confidential data, but let's just say he first preempted one of the demi-spirits from launching a powerful magic at us. And later on, when we were injured and near defeat, he led our counterattack with a strike that temporarily knocked down the same demi-spirit which had regenerated. That drew many OUUUUU and Arth comments among the gods. Apollo was practically drooling. Loki, well, does anyone have a suggestion for a nickname? Finn, our members have been calling Belle Little Argonaut. Freya, I like that. Loki, I second that. As such, the Tiona's nickname for Belle was adopted without objection. While the Denatus was ongoing, Belle was training with Ais and Tiona. Belle wanted badly to level, so he was working as hard as possible to have his other stats catch up to his magic stats. Recovered from the peeping incident, Ais and Belle were having a good time sparring. Compared to their previous training, Belle has leveled and then gotten even stronger. Thus, Ais could easily tell the difference. Nevertheless, Tiona and Ais were however having a competition in the number of lap pillows given to Belle. As such, Belle had gotten to learn more about the 2 girls' thighs than he ever expected. Of course, not that he was complaining. That evening, Freya gave Belle an update before telling him about his new nickname. He had a healthy jump from the day of intense training. Level 2 Strength, 137 Endurance, 243 Agility, 171 Dexterity, 128. Magic, 569 Skill, Argonaut Magic, Firebolt development ability. Luck. Freya then told Belle about little Argonaut, which made him happy. With that, there was another hot kiss on the cheek which made Belle embarrassed as well as warm inside. He did go to bed early, as tomorrow would be a busy day. He had another day of training, but he first needed to buy new set of armor after the girls took his damaged pieces as souvenirs in the monkey pile on the 18th floor. The new normal with his armor taken from him by the girls for souvenirs, Belle needed new armor. Since he liked the light armor, he went to look for the same smith, Welf Crozzo, who crafted his original armor. Belle managed to find Welf at the Hephaestus shop, and they had a great discussion. Belle loved how light the armor was while Welf was amazed he got to meet the new record holder. As other jealous smiths walked by, the two agreed to sign a contract in which Welf would provide the recorder holder with weapons and armor. What particularly impressed Welf was that Belle did not care if he refused to make magic swords. The two then would agree to meet at the same time the next day for Belle to pick up his new set of light armor. After meeting with Welf, Belle went to see Lily. It had been a couple days since their return. There was still some mutual embarrassment about the peeping, but they managed to get through it. They then made plans to go back in the dungeon at the end of the week. That would allow Belle the time to focus on training with Ais and Tiona, while Lily needed time to handle some familiar business. Then it was time for training. Ais and Tiona were already there when Belle got to the city wall. As they trained, an unexpected person dropped in. It was Lord Otter. Otter Sword Princess and Amazon, thank you for training our member. Would you like to spar with me also? Ais and Tiona of course jumped at the opportunity. Thus the training rotated sparring partners. Of course, no one was a match for Otter, but Ais and Tiona learned a lot from getting beat up. They had also adapted certain training rituals. Everyone went to get potato snacks from the best stand in Ororio with a cute twin ponytailed goddess. For dinner, Belle usually went with Ais and Tiona to the hostess. That continued to cause whispers from other customers, especially as little bits of details were leaking about the peeping. That also caused green eyes from SYR, who continued to be teased by her friend Ryu. The only unusual matter over the week was the girls' focus on Belle's new armor. For some reason, the competition for Belle's armor in the dungeon somehow got the girls focused on owning additional pieces of Belle's armor. This routine continued until the end of the week, and Belle's stats were rising rapidly per Freya updates. After the latest update and hot kiss on the cheek, Freya showed Belle his stats: level 2 strength, 356 endurance, 466 agility, 423 dexterity, 335 magic, 582 skill, Argonaut magic, Firebolt development ability, luck for a normal adventurer. These stats would already have meant a level up, but Belle agreed with Freya to wait until he reaches at least S levels. With the end of the week, everyone took a break from the training. This was time to meet Lily for going into the dungeon. With Belle's new friendship with Welf, Belle agreed to allow Welf to join their party as a part of their agreement. The three junior adventurers met up at the Babel entrance, but Lily and Welf immediately developed an animosity to each other. The trouble started because Lily thought Welf was bribing Belle with equipment in order to get the necessary experience to gain his blacksmith ability. She also gave Welf grief for being from the fallen Crozzo family. However, after a little chat, Belle convinced the two to try being in a party for the day. With Belle's level 2 status, they got all the way down to the 13th floor. Welf and Lily were getting along better, though they still bickered a bit. However, as they were battling some monsters, a few adventurers ran by them. Lily immediately realized that they were being paraded. With Lily's warning, Belle immediately used 8 firebolts in quick succession to rapidly eliminate the monsters they were fighting. While white sparkles started forming, Belle waited for the large herd of monsters to get closer. Just before the monster got with weapons range, he launched an Argonaut firebolt with about 12 seconds of charge. The enhanced firebolt took out a large number of level 1 monsters, shocking Welf as he had never seen Belle's secret cannon. Even after the enhanced firebolt, there were still a lot of monsters, but Belle protected his party as well as he could. Fortunately, the big explosion also scared away a lot of the monsters, so Belle and his party were able to wipe out the remaining ones. Realizing they barely managed to avoid a bad situation, the three decided that they had enough for the day. The return trip was relatively trouble-free, and the three went to the guild to exchange the magic crystals. As they were talking to Aina, several adventurers walked up to them. It was Mikoto, Uka, Chigusa, and Asuka of the Takamikazuchi Familia. Mikoto did a Dejiza to apologize for parading them in the dungeon. Uka was much less apologetic, but did say he was glad that they survived the situation. While Uka and Welf were angry with each other, Bell made peace so the two sides agreed to maintain good relations. To help seal the peace, everyone went to the hostess for dinner. In fact, the two groups agreed to go into the dungeon together the next day. The next day, everyone met at the dungeon entrance. With a party of 7, they had much less trouble getting down to the 13th floor. However, as they explored the 13th floor, a bunch of Amazons ambushed their party. They were outnumbered by higher-level adventurers. It did not help that Bell found it difficult to use Argonaut against a bunch of beautiful Amazons. 3 Amazons then jumped on Bell and overpowered him to get some taste of fresh rabbit. Welf and Uka were knocked out, while Mikoto was beaten till she could not get up. Chigusa and Asuka were also beaten down while the Amazons laughed at their weakness. Having beaten Bell's party down, the Amazons tied up Bell and took him back to the surface. Bad situation after Bell was taken away by the Amazon Barbellas. The defeated party members started to recover. Mikoto first managed to get up and went to wake up Welf and Uka. Fortunately, they managed to get themselves together before monsters approached them. After killing a few Almirage, they quickly headed back up to the surface. They immediately went to get help. Lily and Welf went to the Loki Familia while Mikoto and her Familia went to the Freya Familia. Meanwhile, Bell was brought to Belle and Ais, the home of the Ishtar Familia. Turns out that Aisha was the leader of the group, but her mission was to deliver the record holder to Ishtar's chambers. Inside the room, Bell was stripped and changed into something provocative before being tied down to the bed. As he awaited his fate, he could hear laughter outside the room. Outside the Ishtar's chambers, Ishtar was talking to her Barbellas and was quite pleased with the successful capture of Freya's favorite. Apparently, Ishtar had a great hatred and jealousy of Freya. After discovering Freya's new favorite was the new recorder holder, she expended the necessary manpower to spy on Bell for the kidnapping. With the rumored purity of the new record holder, she wanted to corrupt him absolutely and rub it in Freya's face. Outside the Twilight Manor, Mikoto and her Familia managed to make it back to the surface despite their injuries. Despite still bleeding from multiple areas, Mikoto pleaded with the guards to see the Loki executives, who Lily said were good friends of Bell. Outside the Folkvang, while limping, Welf and Lily reached the Folkvang and told the guards that they are in Bell Cranel's party and that he has been kidnapped. Realizing the seriousness of the matter, they were immediately taken inside. Inside Ishtar's chamber, after talking to her Barbellas, Ishtar went inside to have some fun with her prize. With the doors bolted behind her, she sat on top of Bell and starting having fun with him. She gave Bell a quick kiss on the cheek and used her charm powers on Bell. Then she untied Bell and instructed him to ravage her. The Twilight Manor, after a small delay, Mikoto was brought to meet the Loki executives. Once Mikoto mentioned that Bell Cranel was kidnapped, everyone jumped and asked who did it. With the description of the Amazons dressed like Barbellas, they realized that it was likely the Ishtar Familia. While Finn and Revisa discussed what to do, Ais took off in aerial without waiting on a decision. Seeing this, Tiona, Tyon and Beat chased after her, while Finn, Revisa and Gareth looked at each other in shock. Realizing that a battle with a significant Familia may soon be starting, they sent Lefia to notify Loki and chased after Ais themselves. Inside the Folkvang, after Lily and Welf told Freya and Otter of their account of what happened, Freya immediately used her powers to confirm the situation. Indeed, she found that Bell was inside the Belle and Ais and that his pure clear soul was being affected. Wasting zero time, she told Otter that this is total war and she wants Ishtar eliminated. Even Otter was worried because he had never seen Freya this angry. It was not a screaming angry, but an anger deeply rooted which could only be satisfied by bloodshed. Following instructions, Otter immediately mobilized his Familia, and they headed to the Belle and Ais ready for all-out war. Inside Ishtar's chamber, after charming Bell, Ishtar waited for Bell to make her feel good. As she waited for Bell to ravage her as instructed, Bell got up and pushed her down. Pleased with the masculine maneuver, Ishtar waited for Bell to take the next step. However, instead of doing as instructed, Bell tied her hands together using the rope that was used to hold him. Ishtar was very surprised why the charm did not work and so tried using her charm again. Instead, Bell then tied her to the bed. Furious at the rejection of her beauty and her charm, Ishtar screamed for help from her attendants. At the edge of the entertainment district, Ais arrived first with her aerial, with Beat, Tiona, and Tyon following as quickly as they could. She then headed straight for Belle and Ais. As they followed, the 3 colleagues were really worried. Tyon, I have never seen Ais like this. Tiona Ais could probably destroy most of the Barbellas by herself. This is going to be ugly. Seeing the first Barbella, Ais stopped and hit the lower-level Barbella really hard with her scabbard. Knocked against a wall, the Barbella feared for her life at the hands of the famous sword princess, and thus begged for her life when Ais drew her desperate. Ais, do you know where they have taken the human with the white hair? Barbella, I am not sure. There is a lot of activity at the Belle Babili. With that information, Ais continued towards the Belle Babili until she saw another Barbella. She then repeated the same strike with her scabbard and then asked the same question. Barbella 2, please do not kill me. I saw the boy at the Belle Babili. He was captured and brought to Ishtar. Having confirmed the location, Ais headed at top speed for the Belle Babili. Beat, we have to make sure Ais does not kill a god. Tiona, do you think Ais would do that? The punishment would be incredibly severe. Tyon, with the look in her eyes, I am not sure. We have to prevent her from doing anything crazy. At another area of the entertainment district, the Freya Familia arrived. Freya wanted to take a scorched earth approach. The thought of Ishtar violating little Argonaut was making her blood boil. As the destruction proceeded, many ran for their lives. There was going to be no mercy. As the Freya members headed towards Belle Babili, everything behind them was torched. Inside Ishtar's chamber, when Ishtar's assistants came in, they were shocked to find the rabbit freed and Ishtar tied down. When they tried to stop Bell, he ran around them and escaped outside the chamber. As he ran along the hallway, more Barbellas chased after him. Kill, kill, kill. At the main entrance for Belle Babili, Ais arrived at the entrance with golden lightning emanating out of her golden eyes. There was a large concentration of Barbellas who tried to put up resistance. As Ais threw them by the side, there was a large woman in her way. Knowing who that was, Ais drew desperate from the scabbard. Thus a vicious battle ensued with deadly intent. Beat, Tyon, and Tiona were still running as fast as they could, but they could only see Ais ripping apart opponents from afar. On one side of the entertainment district, as the Freya members were destroying everything in their path, a few Barbellas tried to resist. However, the Freya members quickly disposed of them, stepping on them like insects. Wanting to secure Belle, Freya, Alan, and Otter headed for the Belle Babili, while the Gulliver brothers and other first-class adventurers spearheaded the absolute destruction of the entire area. Inside Ishtar's chamber, Ishtar was freed from her bed and was furious. But then there was more news. Aisha Ishtar-sama, the sword princess, is at the front door and is beating the Barbellas. Phryne is now fighting with her. Also, the Freya Familia is attacking and burning down everything in the entertainment district. It seems they are heading straight for here. Ishtar became overcome with fear. A confrontation with Freya is bad enough. But now, for some reason, the Loki Familia is now allied with the Freya Familia. There was no way to counter such a combined force. Elsewhere inside the Belle Babili, as the Barbellas chased Bell around the Belle Babili, he was running for his life, or more accurately for his body. After turning a corner, he was able to enter a room to hide inside. Inside the room, there was a beautiful young girl in a nightie with blonde hair and cute fox ears. Seeing Bell, the young girl stripped down and approached Bell. However, she fainted and fell when she began to remove Bell's clothing. At the main entrance for Belle Babili, Ais was not holding back against Phryne. With her higher stats, she quickly got the advantage. She slashed away at the large woman as if Phryne was a monster and drew blood multiple times. By that time, Beat, Tyon, and Tiona arrived, and all three had to work together to hold Ais back from actually killing Phryne. At that point, Freya and Otter had also arrived along with Alan. Furious Freya, Alan, don't kill their fat captain, but I want you to break every bone in her body. I mean literally every bone. I don't want her to be able to use a weapon again. Alan, yes, Freya-sama. Freya's order shocked Tiona and Tyon, but Ais had no other concern except Bell. Freya, Otter, let's go find Bell. Hearing Freya, Ais, Tiona, and Tyon followed them, while Beat stayed at the entrance area as Alan followed Freya's instructions. Inside the room of the fox-eared prostitute, the young girl with the fox ears woke up after a short while and apologized for fainting. After getting dressed, Belle started talking to calm her down, though both found out they like fairy tales and hero stories. After a while, she said she was not worthy of dreaming about such grand stories as she was a prostitute, which Belle said that was not true. Seeing Belle's kindness, she helped Belle by teaching him how to escape from the building and the entertainment district. Before leaving, Belle introduced himself, and the girl told Belle that her name was Haroheim. Belle then left for a side entrance which took him away from most of the Barbellas. Near Ishtar's chamber, Freya, Otter, Ais, Tyon, and Tiona approached the chamber. Seeing the look on Freya's face, Ishtar tried to run away, so they split up. Freya and Otter chased after Ishtar while Tiona, Tyon, and Ais went to search for Belle. Eventually Ishtar, Freya, and Otter ended up on the roof of the building. Ishtar tried to beg for her life, but Freya showed her no mercy. As Ishtar backed up towards the edge of the building, Freya followed with deadly intent, having Otter at her side. Even as Ishtar continued to cry and beg, Freya had a cold, steeled look that did not have a drop of mercy. Eventually, Ishtar could not back up any further with her heels at the very edge of the roof. With no second thought, Freya pushed Ishtar off the roof. There soon was a pillar of light back to heaven. With their goddess gone, the Barbellas' token resistance even was eliminated. Ais was not showing much mercy either, as she was hitting the Barbellas out of pure anger and frustration. However, they could not find Belle after a thorough search of the building. 10 minutes later, all the Barbellas were herded into a circle at the front of the building. They had watched Alan literally break every bone in Phryne's body, as she was now a total helpless mess on the ground. Either though they cried for mercy, Freya's Familia ignored them. At the same time, Ais were extremely upset as they could not find Belle. The interrogation of Aisha and others also yielded nothing, as they could only say that he escaped. Fortunately, Finn, Revisa, and Gareth had arrived. They immediately told Ais to calm down and stand down, and that further bloodshed was unnecessary. On the roof, Freya finally calmed down a bit and remembered to use her power to find Belle. After identifying Belle at the edge of the complex with his clear soul intact, she was much relieved. She then quickly had her members run to secure Belle. Another 10 minutes later, Belle was brought to the main entrance area where all the Barbellas were held lying on the ground. The whole scene looked really scary and he felt sorry for them. Freya and Otter had came down to inspect the captives. It was time to figure out what to do with them. It looked really bad for the Barbellas. Freya wanted to deal with them harshly, and the Loki executives were not about to defend the Barbellas from Freya's wrath. As Freya was considering selling them as slaves or worse, Belle begged for mercy. Doing a Dejeza, Belle apologized to his goddess for getting her worried. He further elaborated that Haroheim had helped him escape and that many of the Barbellas seemed to be under some type of control by Ishtar. With Belle's plea on behalf of Haroheim, Freya agreed that she will keep Haroheim to reward her for helping Belle escape. As far as the other Barbellas were concerned, she allowed Belle to decide what to do with them, as he was the victim. Seeing Belle was safe, Freya and Otter headed back to their home. Being the kind, nice guy, Belle certainly was not going to treat the prisoners roughly. He had their bindings cut and told them they would not be harmed, earning him more than 100 admirers at the same time. Belle also talked to his friends and tried to find familiars for the prisoner Barbellas. As the unofficial girlfriend, Ais did not approve of Belle spending so much time around the Barbellas. Thus Ais stayed by Belle's side as he dealt with them. Having the same concern, Freya assigned a couple junior members to monitor the situation. Chrysalis Belle worked really hard with different deities and the guild to find homes for the Barbellas. That really impressed the Barbellas, who knew they were in the wrong kidnapping him in the first place. With Ishtar back in heaven, they were powerless without their Falna. But yet he continued to try to help them while getting nothing in return. Aisha was particularly impressed, and it turned out that she was close to Haroheim. Thus the two went to Belle. Haroheim thanked Belle with tears in her eyes. Tiri Haroheim, Belle Sama, we are really appreciative of what you are doing. Thank you for saving me and all the Barbellas. Aisha in tears. Belle, I am so glad there is someone like you in the Freya Familia who would protect Haroheim. I want to apologize for leading the kidnapping mission. I am so incredibly sorry. Belle, that is fine. I hope everything will work out for everyone. Haroheim and Aisha wanted to help Belle. Hearing his stomach make a loud sound, everyone laughed and knew he was starving. Asking Belle what he wanted to eat, Belle suggested the hostess. Realizing these girls had lost everything in the attack and the burning of the entertainment district, Belle borrowed some money from Ais so Haroheim and Aisha could bring back takeout from the hostess. After Haroheim and Aisha left, Belle noticed Ais did not look right at all. He then realized he had mostly ignored his unofficial girlfriend when she came to save him, and she looked like she was very pained by the events. Thus he suddenly gave her a long hug and said thank you, shocking everyone there. The hug was magical, as Ais teared up and her anger calmed down. Realizing that Ais was starting to get better, he pulled her down to give her a lap pillow in front of the entire crowd. Despite the huge embarrassment, not only did Ais not resist, she welcomed the comfort of Belle's lap. After a few minutes, it completely wiped out her remaining anger. especially after he started stroking her hair like she did with him before. No one had ever seen the first-class sword princess treated in such a way before, but it was clearly helping and it made her happy. Mini Ais was literally rolling on the floor in celebration. Finn, Revisa, and the rest of the Loki Familia were relieved to see Ais returning to her normal self, as even Beat was scared when Ais went into killer mode. The junior Freya members also watched the lap pillow and realized Belle was the real hero. Lily, Welf, Mikoto, and Uka, who came to the entertainment district after the Freya attack, realized that Belle had taken command of the entire situation. The large group of Barbellas also watched Belle calm the angry princess and knew that he had totally assumed control. It was as if Belle was doing what he was meant to do. After Ais was feeling better, Finn and Gareth returned to the Twilight Manor to report to Loki while Revisa stayed there to be supportive. As they were heading out, Haruheim and Aisha came back with the food. Following them were Syr and Ryu, who came to check on Belle. Syr, Ryu, and other waitresses from the hostess also brought large amounts of food for the large group, which had not had much since breakfast. During their meal, Lefia arrived and was happy to see her sisters. She was apparently ordered to stay at the Twilight Manor by Loki during the battle, but finally allowed to go to check on Ais when Finn and Gareth returned. She was also shocked to see Belle running the whole show and her idol sister by his side as his princess. With the situation greatly improved, Belle focused on working out what to do with the Barbellas. Aina also arrived. Seeing what was happening, she became really impressed with the young one who just turned level 2, and starting feeling a strange feeling in her heart. Hummies and Asfi soon showed up and agreed to accept Aisha. Many additional gods also came by as coordinated by Aina and the guild. By the end, all the Barbellas who wanted to be in a Familia were given Falnas on the spot. Those who did not want a Falna included completely traumatized Phryne, even after she was treated with multiple potions. The entire disaster, which could have been a slaughter of unprecedented proportions, had been mitigated thanks mostly to the white hair boy. Afterwards, Belle and Ais decided to go for dessert at the hostess, and were followed by a large group consisting of Tiona, Tyon, Beat, Lefia, Revisa, the Freya members, Welf, Lily Uka, Mikoto, Haruheim, and Aisha. On their way there, Belle held hands with Ais on the walk there. He was no longer going to hide their close relationship in public. Thus, after the war, the big news in Ororio would be the interfamilial relationship between the Sword Princess and the new record holder. After the sweets, Belle walked Ais back to the Twilight Familia along with Revisa, Beat and the twins, Haruheim and the Freya members. When they got to the gate, he gave Ais a hug, a thank you and a kiss goodnight on the lips despite the company. Belle then returned to his home with Haruheim and the Freya members. After Haruheim got her room and settled down, Belle knocked on his goddess door. After going inside, he did another Dejiza and thanked Freya. Freya sat down on the floor and happily gave him a lap pillow which helped remove her fury from the day. Before going back to his room, Belle gave Freya a long hug, a kiss on the cheek and a thank you, which shocked Freya but gave her a feeling she had never felt before. After Belle left, Freya smiled to herself, realizing Belle had become assertive. This may be the true calling of Belle's pure clear soul. At the same time, she also knew that it would be difficult for her to say no to anything he asked. That made her positively giddy. The next day, Ororio was abuzz in news. The Freya Familia had to pay a huge fine with the destruction of the entertainment district. Fortunately, the fine was later adjusted lower with help from Loki and Hermes. The real news was the heartbreaker involving the interfamilial relationship between the Sword Princess and the new record holder. The heartbreaker for 1,000 people, that is. At breakfast, Freya talked to her familiar about the fine, but indicated that they could readily afford it. Belle thanked Freya for her rescue again, but Freya told Belle that she would do it again without a second thought. What Freya was more concerned about was updating Belle and his training. The update was performed right after breakfast, showing good progress. Level 2 Strength, 389 Endurance, 501 Agility, 493 Dexterity, 380 Magic, 636 Skill, Argonaut Magic, Firebolt Development Ability. Luck. It was then time to give Haruheim her Falna, and the results shocked everyone involved. Freya discovered Haruheim's unprecedented level-boosting magic Yukaide no Kozuchi. When asked, Haruheim told them that the Ishtar Familia used to take her deep into the dungeon in a metal box to take advantage of her magic. Realizing the importance of the magic, Freya immediately ordered the information to be kept within a tight circle of Otter, Belle, and Haruheim. At the Twilight Manor, there was a huge reaction to the announcement about the relationship between Ais and Belle. Despite the numerous jealous people, Tiona, Tyon, and Revisa were enjoying the entertainment from teasing Ais about a wedding. Even though Ais liked the sound of that, Ais was thoroughly embarrassed and unable to fight back. While disappointed, Loki realized that the fat lady had sang and had to accept that the princess had selected her chosen one. Excited with having a boyfriend, Ais wanted to go to the Freya home to visit Belle. Loki approved the visit but worried about how Ais would be treated there. Thus, she sent Revisa with Ais to make sure everything would be all right. At the Folkvanga, Belle, Otter, and Freya were in the midst of discussing Belle's training when there was suddenly a big commotion. Alan came in to report that Ais Wallenstein and Revisa 9 Hells were requesting permission to visit. Seeing the color of Belle's soul instantly got even brighter with simply the mention of the Sword Princess, Freya approved the visit and told her members to treat the Loki members with respect and hospitality. Freya already knew what the end result was going to be, and there was no point to resist the ultimate fate. Smiling, she also knew that she was unable to say no to Belle in any case. Soon Ais and Revisa entered, and Freya invited them for tea at the private dining room. Freya, so here is my Belle's official new girlfriend. Ais nodded embarrassingly, which also brought a blush to Belle's cheeks. Freya, well, Belle, are you not going to offer your girlfriend some food? Jumping into action, Belle brought in more food for Ais and Revisa. Freya, this is something that is certainly unexpected. However, if this is what you want, Belle, then I will certainly support you, Belle. Thank you, Goddess Freya. Freya, however, we must still discuss your training. Do you wish to train with your girlfriend? And Otter? Otter, I had been training with Belle, the Kenki, and the Amazon. Freya, well, Otter, then continue to do so at your discretion. You have my full support. I would like to see Belkuin reach his full potential. Otter, Freya Sama, we will continue to train on the city walls. It is more private so everyone can focus better. Freya 9 Hells, we will continue be open to some joint missions. I suspect these two young ones would be very worried about each other if they are separated on missions. So it may be better for them to be in the same missions so they do not lose focus. Revisa, thank you, Freya Sama. I will advise my captain and goddess Loki of your generous offer. Revisa, as you are aware, we want to trace down a second exit from the dungeon. We will soon be investigating Melon. Freya, Belle, you may join that mission if you like. Be sure to have at least one first-class adventurer with you from the Familia. Belle, thank you, Goddess Freya. Otter, Belle, Alan will go with you on the Melon mission. Until then, we will continue to train at the city walls. An hour later, Belle, Otter, Tiona, and Ais met at the city wall. Joining them were also Loki and Finn, who wanted to check out the training in person. When Belle went on the 59th floor mission, he advanced to level 2 but fought almost like a new level 3. Now as a mid-level 2, he fought a lot like a mid-level 3. Against Ais, Belle was able to block her basic attacks while getting some counter-attacks in. When Belle sparred with Tiona, he had a tougher time as she was stronger and had better endurance than Ais. Her lack of magic attacks did not matter as Ais did not use aerial in training. Fighting Otter was basically impossible at this point, but he simply got the feel of fighting an enormously powerful opponent. Finn, wow, it is hard to believe that he has been an adventurer about 1 month. Loki, yes, you can actually see his progress during training. It is hard to believe, Finn. I can see why so many get frustrated with Belle. His progress makes everyone feel frustrated as if they are like snails. LOL. The training went on for a week as the Loki executive captains planned their Melon trip. Loki wanted to get the perfect bathing suits for all her girls. Belle and Alan were the fortunate 2 guys who would be able to see the display of beauty. Melon, it was time to go on the Melon mission. Freya gave Belle a final update and the typical stimulating kiss on the cheek. The week of training did a lot of good. Belle was an advanced level 2 now who fought like an advanced level 3. Level 2 strength, 597 endurance, 712 agility, 736 dexterity, 583 magic, 684 skill, Argonaut magic, firebolt development ability. Luck. Belle and Alan then met up with the Loki girls to head towards Melon. To be honest, Alan hated being the babysitter, but he was going to obey Freya, and he also understood why it was so important to protect Belle. After the two left the Freya home, Freya and Otter had some serious plans. They were going to start Heraheim's training. With that special magic, they wanted to get a better understanding of the level boosting and what the limits were. They also wanted Heraheim to advance in her stats so she would not have to be kept in a metal box on the battlefield. At the city gates, Belle and Alan met up with the Loki girls, and apparently goddess Loki would also be going on the mission. Belle was sort of confused about the naughty look on the goddess. Nevertheless, the large group headed out for Melon. After they arrived, Loki had Belle and Alan go around town to check for reports of monsters. Loki would then take the girls to check on the underwater entrance to the dungeon. In Melon, while Belle was a bit surprised to be running around in Melon with just Alan, he did not question the instructions. After talk to many locals in the town, everyone indicated that they have not seen the green snake-like monster. The two then did a quick check of the sewers and found that the mithril seals were also intact. Having found no clues, Belle and Alan went to look for the rest of their party. At a lake south of Melon, after talking to Njord, Loki learned of a good location with a lot of privacy. When they arrived at the shores of the lake, Loki opened her luggage with numerous swimsuits for the girls to wear. Turns out the evil goddess had plans to do perverted things to the girls in the secluded location. As Loki lounged on the beach, her eyes locked onto Ais, the twins, Lefia, Alicia, and other gorgeous members. Loki practically was back in heaven, drooling from the side of her mouth. However, when she tried to grab a piece or two, there was no reward and some severe punishment. That was until she found an unsuspecting Lefia. Instead of worrying about the mission, the girls were having fun playing in the water. However, everyone quickly learned that Ais could not swim. As Ais sank, Tiona and Tyon had to rescue her. While Ais was unconscious lying on the sand, Loki ran towards the blonde beauty hoping to resuscitate her. Unfortunately, Belle and Alan had arrived, and Revisa told Belle to perform his mouth-to-mouth task, break Loki's heart. There was no hesitation in Belle, though it was embarrassing with everyone watching. After some serious mouth-to-mouth action, Ais woke up coughing out water. After Ais recovered thanks to Belle's strong effort, it was time to do their job. The real objective of the trip was to make sure that the underwater entrance to the dungeon was still plugged. The Amazon twins used their diving development ability to inspect the underwater entrance, which was still plugged. However, they did find Violas nearby but quickly defeated those monsters. Having verified the presence of the Violas, the group became very suspicious of the local townspeople. Why were they hiding the existence of the monsters? Also, where did the monsters come from, as the dungeon seal was intact as were the source seal? Thus, they decided to do a very thorough search of the town and nearby areas. Back in Melon, the first item on Loki's agenda was the local guild office. To their surprise, they were told that they were not aware of snake-like monsters. Instead, Rubato, the local head, asked them to deal with the Familia, which was causing trouble locally. Running into a dead end, they split into several groups. At Njord's home, Loki, Revisa, and several junior members went to see Njord. Tiona, Tyon, Belle, and Alan would check the fishermen areas on the shore. Ais, Lefia, Alicia, and several junior members would perform a very thorough search of Melon. Loki's group soon discovered that the local guild and Njord were involved in a scheme that used Violas to keep the monster population down in the lake. When asked why he would be involved, Njord explained that there was a large number of aquatic monsters eating all of the fish, which made life difficult for fishermen. Apparently a mystery person lent him the Violas as long as they could continue to smuggle monsters and other goods. Upon further questioning, Njord revealed that the Ishtar familiars was involved as the middlemen between Evelis and Njord. After Njord's confession, they immediately headed for the fisherman area to meet up with Tyon's group. At the pier, the twins, Belle and Alan searched the fisherman area and found the familiar's ship. Furthermore, Arjana and Bake were there with a large group of Amazons. Arjana and Bake immediately recognized the twins and started to push their buttons. When Arjana asked Tyon whether she regretted killing Saildas, Tyon immediately exploded. While Arjana and Tyon fought, Bake faced off against Tiona. At the same time, the remaining Amazons saw male prey and went after Alan and Belle. They had no idea what they got themselves into. Around town, Ais, Lefia, and their group performed a very thorough search of Melon, but they found nothing. Suddenly, they heard that there was a big battle at the pier. Realizing that would be the groups with the twins and Belle, they headed towards the pier at top speed. A few minutes later at the pier, it turned out that Belle and Alan were fighting with 6 level 3 Amazons. Alan had little trouble knocking out his 5 Amazons, but he allowed Belle to fight a level 3 opponent. Even though Belle was only an advanced level 2, he was fighting pretty even with the advanced level 3. Not wishing to harm the pretty Amazon, Belle went for a knockout. He fired off several firebolts in quick succession, forcing the Amazon to jump far away. That bought time for Argonaut charging. With a 10-second charge, he hit the Amazon really hard in the face with an enhanced punch, rendering her unconscious. Belle and Alan then headed for the twins. The fight was not going well, as both were getting beaten down. With Arjana almost finished defeating Tyon, Alan jumped in with his spear. That excited Arjana, who licked her lips for a fight with a worthy male. However, Alan was much more than she bargained for. After a short fight, Arjana was defeated handily by Alan. After Tiona was defeated by Bake, several Amazons carried the tied-up Tiona to their boat. Fortunately, Ais arrived and started to battle Bake. Seeing Tiona was still being carried up to the boat, Belle had to take action. Not wanting to hurt girls, Belle launched a 3-minute charged Argonaut firebolt at the boat. The magic blew a huge hole through the boat, sinking it. Traumatized by Belle's power, the large group of Amazons surrendered as they realized they were completely outgunned. The group then interrogated Callie, who refused to explain what she was doing in Melon. The only information Callie gave was that she had nothing to do with the Violas. They did extract a promise not to bother Tiona and Tyon, though Callie said that most of the Amazons were useless after having been defeated by men. Tired of the stubborn Callie, Alan applied some extra pressure on Callie. That successfully forced Callie to tell them that Ishtar was scary and had a trump card. Loki then sent Revisa and several members to question Rubato at the local guild office. After some direct questions, he tried to run, but was captured and prevented from disposing of incriminating evidence. Soon, Fels appeared and expressed his disappointment in Rubato. With the mission completed, they headed back to Orario. Apparently Callie was not aware of Ishtar's demise, but there were still a lot of questions. The biggest question was who is transporting the monsters out of the dungeon. What that Everless? Furthermore, what was Ishtar's trump card? The defeat of the Ishtar Familia went quite smoothly, so they do not understand what trump card that they may have missed. New members the large group returned to Orario with the mission completed. They learned that the second dungeon entrance was not near Melon, but that some unknown group is responsible for transporting the monsters out from the dungeon. And there may be unknown trump card that Ishtar did not play before returning to heaven. Bell was really looking forward to sleeping in his own bed, though the mouth-to-mouth actions was quite stimulating. Upon reaching Folkvanga, he immediately reported to Freya, who soon gave him an update showed good progress from the mission. Level 2 Strength, 708 Endurance, 813 Agility, 832 Dexterity, 687 Magic, 805. Skill, Argonaut Magic, Firebolt Development Ability, Luck. The next day, Bell started training with Ais, Otter, and Tiona again. With the Loki Familia looking for the second entrance to the dungeon, Ais and Tiona were able to train every morning. In the afternoons, Bell would adventure in the dungeon with Lily and Welf. The Take Familia would also join in whenever possible. After a week, Bell's stats had almost reached S and SS levels. Reaching the desired goal, Freya finished Bell's leveling to level 3, less than 6 weeks after receiving his Falna. The news of Bell reaching level 3 hit Orario really hard. Most adventurers were completely shocked and jealous. But with 2 level jumps, everyone knew Bell was not misleading everyone regarding when he started to adventure. At the Loki Familia, Lefia and Beat were fighting over who got to read the news release first. Both were frustrated. Beat was jealous about Ais, and gaining a level in 2 weeks was too much to bear. Lefia was also jealous over Ais, and Bell catching up to her level was really painful. Even though she knew that she could level to 4 whenever she wanted, her darkest fear was that Bell would make level 4 in less than 1 month. Oh, the humiliation. Meanwhile, Ais was happy for her boyfriend, as was Tiona for little Argonaut. Loki, though, was not surprised by the news with the way Bell destroyed that ship in Melon. At the hostess, Syr was very happy with the news, but she was again teased by Ryu. Mia was also surprised by the boy, but hit Syr on the head to try to convince her that the boy was taken. At the Folkvanga, before going off to train, Bell ran into Heraheim. She was happy report to Bell about all the training she has been receiving. Apparently, Freya had done a lot of work to help her grow. She joined a group of level 2 and level 3 adventurers who were assigned to a new adventuring simulation investment. With a lot of magical construction technique, a large building was already constructed at the edge of Orario. A special feature was a danger room in an enormous basement with walls simulating a labyrinth. At that point, Freya and Otter wanted Bell to meet with them. Freya asked about the 2 level 1 adventurers that Bell made friends with. After telling Freya about Lily and Welf, Freya asked Bell a direct question. Freya, would you be in favor of having them joining our Familia? Bell ? After thinking it over, Bell, Lily is in the Soma Familia and Welf is in the Hephaestus Familia. Freya, I can handle the mechanics of it. But would you be in favor of it if I can get Soma and Hephaestus to agree to it? Bell, well, that would be nice because Lily does not get along with those in her Familia. And Welf is in a similar situation, though far less bad. Freya, little one, that is fine. Go train and I hope to have good news tonight. At the city walls, Ais and Tiona were already there, though Otto would be unable to train for the day as he had to accompany Freya today. Ais, Bell, congrats on the level up, Tiona, little Argonaut, you must let me know your secret. But Bell had no answer for her. Suddenly, Tyon also showed up and put her assets in Bell's face to convince him to help them advance faster. That show of force was too much for Ais, as her jealousy took over with mini Ais in war mode. Bell watched in horror as Ais beat down the Amazon twins. After the fun and games were over, it was time for serious training, with Tyon essentially replacing Otto for the day. With Bell's level up, the training got even more intense. As a beginning level 3, he was fighting like a beginning level 4. The difference in fighting strength was 2 levels, so the gap had closed. Also, for the first time, they asked Bell to incorporate Firebolt in the sparring, despite Bell's concerns. With a more aggressive sparring, they used quite a bit of healing potions, but it made the training much more realistic. Still, the 3 sisters had their contest to see who would give Bell the most lap pillows. Poor Bell was seeing stars by the end of the day, but that did help with his endurance stats. At the hostess, Welf and Lily had to cancel that afternoon, and fortunately, Ais and the twins were available for training all day. After training, Bell, Ais, and the twins went for dinner. It just happened that the Loki, Finn, Revisa, and Gareth were also eating there. Loki, hey, Asapu, are you going to ignore your goddess? Ais, no, but we need a larger table, which Mia was happy to accommodate. Finn, congrats on the level up. Bell, you are really amazing. Bell, thanks Finn. I still have a long way to go, Revisa teased, so you mean Ais has not given you what you desire? That made Bell totally tomato red while Ais was curious. Ais, what do you desire? Bell, which made Bell even redder. Tyon teased Ais, would you give Bell whatever he wants? Ais, certainly, he is my boyfriend. Bell was ready to hide under the table at this point. Tiona teased little Argonaut, she is ready to give you everything. Are you going to disappoint her? Bell was so embarrassed that he was literally tearing up. Ais, Bell, why are you crying? Which drew more laughter. Bell, oh, because you are making me very happy. Tyon, really Bell, how happy has Ais made you? Bell, deciding that the teasing should embarrass both of them. Revisa, Bell, we have been talking about wedding preparations, which made both the boyfriend and the girlfriend look down and unable to answer. Finn, well, I think we have teased them enough, making Bell respect Finn even more. After the teasing, the conversation got more serious. Apparently, the Loki Familia was making progress in finding out where the second entrance to the dungeon was. They believed they have narrowed it to the Datalus Street area. When they asked Bell whether he wanted to take part, Bell was very interested, but he would need Freya's permission. Having feasted at dinner, Bell walked Ais back home in a roundabout route to avoid more teasing from the Loki executives. Of course, little did they know that the twins and Revisa were up to no good. Nevertheless, they had a nice goodnight kiss and then Bell headed home. At the Folkvanga, it was a good training day. A lot of healing potions, but a lot of progress. After getting home, Bell went to discuss the possible mission with Freya and Otto. They were approving of the mission, but they wanted Bell to be accompanied by all 4 Gulliver brothers. In addition, they were going to meet with the Loki executives to discuss planning in detail. After discussing the mission, there were 2 surprises for Bell. Apparently, Freya went to Soma and Hephaestus and convinced them to agree to transfer Lily and Welf. Lily's transfer was permanent while Welf had a temporary 1-year transfer. Bell was really happy to see his friends join the Familia, and they went out to have a late-night snack afterwards. Over the snack, they told Bell that they would be training with Haroheim in the adventuring simulation investment. Also, Freya also recruited Aisha to help with the training. The danger room. The next morning, Bell had breakfast with Haroheim, Lily, and Welf. Today was the first day of their joint training in the simulation facility. Unfortunately, with the intensive joint training, they would be unable to go into the dungeon with Bell for a while. Welf and Lily were quite excited about the danger room in the basement, though Welf was trying to scare the girls about the place being haunted. After breakfast, Freya gave Bell an update. It showed the more aggressive training was having an improved result. Level 3 Strength, 60 Endurance, 61 Agility, 70 Dexterity, 58 Magic, 59 Skill, Argonaut Magic, Firebolt Development Ability, Luck, Abnormal Resistance, at the city walls. After the update, Belle headed to train though Otter was again tied up with Heraheim's development. Fortunately, Tyon joined in along with Ais and Tiona. As the morning continued, Finn dropped by to check out the new and improved Argonaut. Finn, each time I see you, Belle, you make a jump. Belle, I still am so far away from my goal. Tiona, I thought you were kissing your goal. Making the boyfriend and girlfriend quiet. Finn, well, have you tried pairs? Belle, you mean, fighting as a pair? Tiona, I want little Argonaut as my partner, which made Ais upset as she did not jump at the opportunity. Nevertheless, the four traded partners, often with Belle being the obvious handicap in the pair's sparring. At noon, Ais and the twins indicated they could train all day when they learned that Welf and Lily are not going to be going into the dungeon for a while. Over lunch, Tyon suggested a short trip to the dungeon because the Goliath should be respawning the next day. Belle was excited about the opportunity, but he needed to get Freya's permission. Thus, they decided to head to the Folkvanger after training. At the simulation training facility, Freya and Otter monitored the simulation training. They wanted a safe environment to improve their secret ace, Heraheim, to make her tougher and stronger for going into the dungeon. They also wanted to figure out how reliable was the level boosting as well as the operating limits. The first test was whether Heraheim can boost someone extremely high level like Otter. If Otter could be boosted to level 8, that would be a tremendous advantage. Per instructions, Heraheim casted Yukai no Kozuchi on Otter. Immediately, there was a golden glow surrounding Otter, who was filled with enormous power. Upon testing, indeed, Otter's strength, speed and endurance seemed to have taken a big step forward. The exercise continued to determine how long Heraheim could sustain the boosting for, which was 10 minutes. After the initial test, they gave Heraheim recovery potion and then tested again after 30 minutes. The boosting was again 10 minutes. After another 30 minutes and more recovery potion, Heraheim sustained the boosting for another 6 minutes before getting really tired. Thus, not wanting to risk a mind zero, Heraheim's magic training was done for the day. It was then Welf's turn. Freya was particularly interested in Welf's will-o-wisp magic. She wanted to figure out what was the distance range of the magic. Thus, they went into the danger room to test him against some captured hellhound. They were pleased to find out that the magic can be used from more than 600 feet from the target. To test any farther away, they would have to go outside or into the dungeon. So that was left for the next day. They then wanted to test whether it could be used against more powerful magic. Since this was a dangerous test, they brought in a mid to stand by in case there was a serious injury. Welf then tested his ability to cause an ignis fatuus while different magics were being casted. They were really pleased to find out that it worked against level 1 to level 4 mags. Not only that, the magic jamming would continue to work from at least a range of 600 feet. They would have to go outside for longer range tests. The explosions were getting serious, so it would be too dangerous to test against mags of higher than level 4. Then it was finally Lily's turn. They were mostly interested in her ability to make quick decisions. Thus, Lily were given many different scenarios and had to respond immediately with her counter-strategy. It took an hour to go through all the scenarios with Lily, and they believed that she has an excellent tactical mind and would make a good battlefield commander. Thus, the morning session was quite successful. In the afternoon, Freya and Otter were going to meet with the Loki executives to discuss mission planning. Intense training at Twilight Manor. After lunch, Freya and Otter went to meet with the Loki executives to discuss mission planning for finding the second dungeon entrance. They discussed the logic behind searching Datalus Street area. The conversation then evolved to the risks involved. In particular, Freya got very curious when Finn mentioned the trump card that was not played by Ishtar. Freya, a trump card that was not played. So Ishtar did not have the trump card at that time. Finn, that could well be the case, Otter. That means that the trump card could be reasonably located near the entertainment district. Finn, that would be logical, and Daedalus is not far from the entertainment district. Freya, well, what could the trump card be? Loki, we have thinking about that also. Well, monster or monsters, magic item would be the logical guesses. Finn, if it is a monster, the most powerful ones we have encountered are the Demi-spirits. Loki, magic item-wise, most magic items could probably remain in the possession of Ishtar. Otter, so the most logic guess would be one or more Demi-spirits. Revisa, That would seem to be the case. Finn, last time there were two of those demi-spirits, and even with all of the Loki members, Otter and Alan, we could easily have lost. Bell's two Argonaut cannon blasts were the difference between victory and defeat. Freya, if another pivotal battle is upcoming, we will have to push all of our assets into the battle. Finn, that would seem to be prudent. The enemy would have learned from the last battle also, whatever the trump card is. Having agreed to work together, the Loki Familia would continue to search for an entrance before another joint mission would take place. Whatever it is, it would not be simply adding Bell and the Gulliver brothers to the mission. At the city walls, having agreed to a short dungeon mission the next day, Belle, Ais, and the twins continued to train together. After training, Belle and Ais finally had some private time together, with the twins needing to go shopping with Revisa. At the simulation training facility, Haraheim's training for the afternoon would be physical fighting. It allowed her magic to recover while teaching her self-defense and fighting techniques. Being physically weaker and having a kind personality, it was slow going for Haraheim. Having Aisha's assistance was really helpful. Lily and Welf both also received training for physical fighting with lots of sparring. At the end of the day, both were beaten up pretty badly. However, both agreed they had to get stronger, so they were happy for the training. That evening at Folkvanger, Belle and Ais went to discuss the short mission to hunt the Goliath. Freya was agreeable, but she did assign one of the Gulliver brothers to go along. The next day, at the Babel, Belle and a Gulliver brother met Ais and the twins at the dungeon entrance. Many adventurers were jealously staring at the group. The first-class adventurers were not interested in the level 1 monsters, so Belle was the lone vanguard who took care of the monsters. When they reached the mid-levels, Belle still got the great majority of the Excelia. When the number of monsters got to be unreasonable, Ais and Tiona did help out. Tyon and the Gulliver brother mostly sat back and allowed the others to fight. By lunchtime, they had reached the 17th floor. Right on time, the Goliath showed up. They did allow Belle the first cut at the monster, as they wanted his Argonaut cannon at level 3. Belle delivered quite a few physical hits in the first couple minutes. Ais and Tiona then jumped in to buy Belle some time for charging his cannon. After a 2-minute charge, Belle fired his Argonaut firebolt as his two friends cleared the area. Amazingly, the monster was reduced to a magic stone. Ais, your magic has gotten more powerful, Tiona, while little Argonaut is amazing. Tyon again thrusted her assets at the innocent Belle. So Argonaut, are you going to share your secrets? I will show you my secrets if you show me yours, making Belle beat Red and Ais furious. As the Sword Princess chased the crazy Amazon sisters in aerial towards the 18th floor, Belle and the Gulliver brother laughed and walked in the same direction. At the simulation facility, Otter continued to be focused on Haraheim's training. They repeated the same tests as yesterday. They wanted to see if practicing the magic would allow Haraheim to boost Otter for longer than 10 minutes. The first test again stopped at 10 minutes. After recovery potion and 30 minutes of rest, the second test also stopped at 10 minutes. The third test after more potion and another 30 minutes ended at 7 minutes before Haraheim again got very tired. That was 1 minute longer than yesterday, but it did not achieve the desired result of extending the initial boost period to more than 10 minutes. Freya focused on Welf and his will-o-wisp magic. Yesterday, they determined that his magic range was at least 600 feet. Today, they went outside to see if it would work from even longer distances. After testing with some level 1 mags, they were able to use will-o-wisp from a distance of more than 1,200 feet. They then successfully repeated the same test with level 2, level 3, and level 4 mags. Lily's training included lessons in more and more difficult scenarios. They also taught her more about the demi-spirit threat as well as the new species so she could make informed decisions. On the 18th floor of the dungeon, Bell and his group were pretty hungry. After Ais sufficiently punished the twins, they went to Revisa for lunch. They already achieved their goal to see how Belle would handle the Goliath at level 3, and thus they headed back to the surface after lunch. The trip back was pretty uneventful. The toughest fight Belle encountered was in 1 versus 5 situation against Minotaurs. With a 10-second charged physical attack, he wiped out 3 of the Minotaurs. At the simulation training facility, just like yesterday, Haraheim, Welf, and Lily trained in physical attacks and defenses for the afternoon. Over the next several days, the training continued for Belle, Lily, Welf, and Haraheim for the rest of the week. By the end of the week, Haraheim was able to increase her boosting time from 10 minutes to 11 minutes for the first 2 boost periods. Belle had also gained quite a bit of experience during the week. His final update showed that he was almost one-third of the way through Level 3. Level 3 Strength, 310 Endurance, 301 Agility, 348 Dexterity, 293 Magic, 324 Skill, Argonaut Magic, Firebolt Development Ability, Luck, Abnormal Resistance. While training was ongoing, Freya and Otter coordinated with Loki. It appears they are closed to pimp-hunting several locations for the second dungeon entrance. The unknown, with the Loki Familia narrowing down the possible locations for the second dungeon entrance, Freya and Otter pushed as hard as they could on the training for Haroheim. First, they determined that Haroheim does not need to be in the immediate vicinity of the person that Yukai no Kozuchi was casted on. Second, they added an evening session of Yukai no Kozuchi practice while eliminating the afternoon physical combat session. Fortunately, Haroheim did not immediately get a mind zero in the evening session, but was able to sustain 2 uses before getting very tired. At the same time, Bell's training continued with Ais and Tiona. Otter did join their afternoon sessions while Haroheim rested. Welf's Will-O-Wisp training consisted of repeating the spell again and again until he got really tired. Then recovery potions followed by repeating the spell even more. After several days, the training had focused on dealing with a potential demi-spirit threat. Haroheim would provide a one-time boost to level 8. That would assume to be a one-time affair, but she could repeat the boosting if the battle lasts much longer or if there are multiple battles. Welf would provide long-range magic jamming, as Reviria's shield could not hold up the last time they fought demi-spirits. Haroheim's modified training accelerated her improvement. She was able to keep Otter boosted for 15 minutes. Welf was able to use Will-O-Wisp from an even longer range of more than 1,800 feet from the magic-using person or monster. Bell had also gained quite a bit of experience during the week. His final update showed that he was almost one-half of the way through Level 3. Level 3 Strength, 464 Endurance, 456 Agility, 529 Dexterity, 448 Magic, 487 Skill, Argonaut Magic, Firebolt Development Ability, Luck, Abnormal Resistance, Datalus Street. The Loki Familia finally found an entrance in the sewers. They discovered a secret staircase after Beats smelled violas near an old part of the sewers. Going down the stairs, they found a door made of orichalcum and reported to Finn and Loki. The next day, the Loki Familia and the Freya executives were ready for penetrating the secret door. The attack force would consist of 2 major groups as well as a reserve group which stayed behind in the sewers. The lead group consisted of Finn, Beat, Ais, Bell, Raoul, Lefia, as well Filvis, who joined in the mission. The second group consisted of Gareth, Reviria, Tyon, Tiona, and the 4 Gulliver brothers. The groups were in communication with each other, Loki and Freya through communication devices from Asfi. At the urging of Beat, who smelled trouble inside, members below Level 4 were left behind in the sewers as part of a reserve group. Also staying behind in the sewers were Otter, Alan, Hogni, Haydeen, Haroheim, and Welf. If needed, Otter, Alan, and Hogni would be ready to enter the fight. Haroheim, Haydeen, and some lower-level adventurers would go along with them. In such a scenario, Haroheim would boost Otter at the last possible second before probably retreating back to the surface. She would be guarded by Haydeen and some of the lower-level adventurers. Otter would have 15 minutes as a level 8, while Welf would provide magic jamming capability for the reserve group. Given their level 1 vulnerability, Haroheim and Welf would both be wearing Hade's hat from Asfi for invisibility. With a key secured from the Ishtar Familia location, they were able to open the door to the Knossos. The 2 groups then entered. As they traveled into the Knossos, they encountered a fork. The group led by Finn went left, while the group led by Gareth went right. Just read the wiki's complete synopsis for Sword Oratoria 12 from Angelo. Fortunately, I was able to incorporate changes to this fanfiction to maintain more consistency with the big reveals in Sword Oratoria 12. War following a map created from Reviria's magic circles, the attack groups moved forward. At a fork, the group including Finn, Beat, Ais, Bell, Raoul, Lefia, and Filvis went left in a fork, while the other group with Gareth, Reviria, Tyon, Tiona, and the 4 Gulliver brothers went right. With Finn's group, as Finn's group walked through the Knossos, they were attacked by violas and water spiders. After battling numerous monsters, they reached a large room. Valletta was in the room. After ranting based on her anger about Finn, she had a very large number of violas attack them. As they traversed the room, many water spiders also appeared. However, Beat destroyed most of the spiders. Suddenly, Finn was very concerned as his thumb ached a lot. Despite his caution, Revisa appeared from a secret door and gave him a very deep wound. Acting quickly, Raoul grabbed the severely injured Finn, and the entire group headed down a hole while Valletta laughed about Finn's injury. With Revisa and Valletta giving chase, the rear guard, Lefia and Filvis became separated from the rest of the group when Valletta shut the door on them. Raoul and Oki then tried to treat Finn's wound, but they could not make the wound close no matter what they did. Thus Oki realized that Revisa must have used a cursed weapon. Unfortunately, Valletta was still chasing them, and thus they had to carry Finn to a safer location. With Gareth's group also ended up in a room like the large room Finn's group went into. Barca was in the room and was upset about their presence in the Knossos. Barca activated a large red jewel in the middle of the room, causing the entire group to fall into the trap that covered the entire floor. In the control room, Barca and Dix watched videos of adventurers using water films on the pedestal. Barca suggested that monster smuggling would become difficult if the adventurers were successful, forcing Dix to go join the fight. As Dix went off, Barca continued to monitor the adventurers through the water films, and made them suffer through additional traps using his eye to remotely activate the doors and traps. Lefia and Filvis, after being separated from Finn's group, the two elves reached a corridor that looked different from the rest of the labyrinth. The area had multiple pillars with walls covered with murals likely from ancient ruins outside Ororio. The themes of the murals were disasters and destruction, with one having a large dragon with 6 women around it. The 6 women had folded arms and closed eyes, which made Lefia wonder if they were being sacrificed or if they were saints. Suddenly Denatus appeared behind a pillar. After introducing himself, he told them that the dragon was the Nidhogg, the most feared dragon in the ancient world until the 3 disasters appeared. Lefia, are you Enio? Denatus, no. I have never heard of Enio. Lefia, why do you want to destroy Ororio? Denatus, not every god in Everlis is evil, but some are just bored while some wanted to create heroes. Denatus, I preside over death, and the lower world is less fun now because there is less death with the Falna. With less death, there is less work for me. As several Denatus members arrived, Filvis used Dio Thyrsos to blind them to cover the escape for Filvis and Lefia. With reserve group, using the communication device, the reserve group learned of Finn's injuries. They made the decision to take Finn out of the Knossos. To help with the evacuation, Otter and Alan would enter the Knossos to meet up with Finn's group for the extraction. However, Otter decided to hold off on activating their ace that was Heraheim's boosting. They could see that the enemy had the advantage using traps, but so far there was nothing that warranted the use of level boosting. They need to conserve their advantage as once the 15 minutes of boosting was used up, they would have to wait 30 minutes before boosting was available again. With Finn's group, after communicating with the reserve group, they decided to separate into 2 groups. Ais, Bell and several other members would engage enemies, while Beat, Raoul and support members would carry Finn to meet with Otter and Alan. Seeing Beat's group trying to carry Finn to safety, Dix tried to use his curse, Phobita Daedalus, to attack them. Fortunately, Beat and Raoul were able to escape from it, but it did affect more junior members. As Beat and Raoul ran away with Finn towards the meeting location with Otter and Alan, Bell and Ais came in to stop the affected members from attacking Beat, Raoul and Finn. With Bell and Ais' group protecting them, Raoul and Beat were able to carry Finn to the meeting location. Otter and Alan were already there waiting. Raoul then followed Otter back towards the entrance while Alan went with Beat to assist the attack groups. As Ais and others bought time by blocking the attacks from the affected members, Bell tried to stop the caster to end the curse. Bell immediately launched a huge numbers of firebolts at Dix. Several firebolts impacted Dix, and the curse was ended. Seeing his advantage taken away, Dix ran behind a trap door. Suddenly, a red-haired woman appeared. With the reserve group, they were glad to see Finn rescued when Otter and Raoul brought him back. Seeing Finn's wound was not healing with healing potions, they immediately had Raoul and a couple supporters carry Finn to Amid's infirmary. Otter then suggested that everyone get ready as it appeared they may soon enter the battle. With Gareth's group, Tyon, Tiona, and a few others were wandering through the hallways until they became separated. Tyon's group was attacked by assassins while Tiona's group was assaulted by monsters including a large number of poison vermis. Meanwhile Gareth, the Gulliver brothers and several others were suicide attacked by Everlis members, who drove them into a Kensuke trap. Even though Gareth's group ran as fast as they could, they were trapped when a trapdoor shut ahead of them. Big trouble, with Bell and Ais, Revis Aria, you are not escaping today, and started to attack Ais. AIS was pushed back by Revisa, while Bell started launching firebolts that barely had an effect on Revisa. Even with AIS using aerial, Revisa did not back down and continued attacking. At that time, realizing simple firebolts were useless, Bell started charging Argonaut. Seeing AIS was in danger, Bell launched a 10-second charge firebolt, which did cause damage and annoyed Revisa. Annoyed, Revisa still continued to press AIS, though the Argonaut firebolt did buy AIS some time. At that point, Beat and Alan returned and jumped into the fight. AIS, Beat and Alan had the advantage on Revisa. As they continued to battle, Bell managed to charge Argonaut for 1 minute before finding a window to launch the enhanced firebolt at Revisa. Unable to dodge the firebolt, the blast took out her right arm, making her really annoyed and run into a secret trap door. With Gareth's group, after being trapped when a door shut ahead of them, the floor opened up and caused them to fall into a large room below. They saw a demi-spirit like the ones on the 59th floor and 2 large monsters, also with a beautiful girl's upper body, but a large monster's lower body with powerful hooves. Recognizing the danger, Gareth immediately contacted the reserve group. Gareth, Otter, we need backup immediately. We dropped 1 floor into a large room and just encountered a demi-spirit like we fought before and 2 more monsters that seem like a different type of demi-spirit, Lefia and Filvis. Hearing Gareth's request for assistance, the 2 elves headed for the lower level. With the reserve group, hearing Gareth's request, Otter, Hogni, Haydeen, Haraheim and Welf headed into the Knossos. As planned, Otter, Alan and Hogni were the vanguard, while Haraheim, Haydeen, Welf and some lower-level adventurers would go along with them. Given their level 1 vulnerability, Haraheim and Welf were both wearing Hade's hat from Asfi for invisibility. As they approached the target area, the invisible Haraheim boosted Otter to level 8 and then was taken back towards the surface by Haydeen. Otter, Hogni and the invisible Welf then continued forward. With Bell and Ais, hearing Gareth's request, Bell, Ais, Beat, Alan and other members headed for the lower level to assist with the 3 demi-spirits. Bell was charging Argonaut while running. As they approached where Gareth and others were, they heard loud explosions likely from extremely powerful magics. By the time they reached Gareth's location, they saw the Loki executives and other members lying on the ground. They were not moving and bleeding badly. The lower-level members poured potions on the badly injured executives and other members. Seeing the familiar type of demi-spirit, Bell launched an enhanced firebolt that had charged for 3 minutes. As he fired, the other 2 large monsters started charging towards them while Beat, Ais and Alan prepared to engage. Heavy damage. At the large room, the potions prevented Gareth, Reveria, Tiona, Tyon and the Gulliver brothers from bleeding to death, though they were in a daze and still not in a position to fight. So the other members helped them get to a safer location. At that point, Bell's 3-minute charge firebolt hit the demi-spirit, causing enormous damage. The beautiful girl portion of the monster was blown away along with a part of the monster body itself. However, the magic stone was not destroyed and it was clear that the monster was regenerating. Beat, Ais and Alan then engaged the 2 large monsters, but their weapons barely did any damage to the adamantium-like bodies of the monsters. As they continued to strike the other 2 large monsters, the monsters used a lightning magic similar in form to aerial to protect themselves. That magic blew away Beat, Ais and Alan against the far wall. As they tried to get up, the monsters then slammed their hooves into the ground that caused a huge explosion, which blew the 3 away again. Seeing that Ais, Beat and Alan were heavily damaged, the other members tried to heal them with potions. That left Bell alone against both monsters. One monster then used its hoof attack against Bell, which caused another powerful explosion that also knocked Bell against the wall. The other monster then used its hoof attack against Bell, which caused heavy damage on Bell. See how Bell had a powerful cannon? The monsters tried to finish off Bell using their lightning magic. Fortunately, the rabbit was still able to avoid the attack, despite having severe injuries. The damaged rabbit continued to buy time for his injured colleagues by running around the large room. With Otter's group, Otter, Hogni and the invisible Welf ran as quickly as possible towards the large room, even bypassing some monsters. They knew the attack groups could be in big trouble. Lefia and Filvis. Lefia had already activated Elf Ring and was using concurrent chanting to chant Ria Levitine. Once they reached the big room, Lefia launched her magic at the area of the 3 demi-spirits without hitting their allies. The spell caused huge damage to the same demi-spirit that had recovered from Bell's Argonaut firebolt. With the other 2 monsters, the spell also burnt up most of the beautiful girl top half on them, but their bodies were not severely damaged. All three were starting to recover. Rabbit action. That bought time for Belle to receive some treatment with some potions while charging Argonaut again as the grand bell rang loudly. However, the two large monsters were recovered after 3 minutes and charged towards Belle. Before they reached him, the 3-minute charge limit of Firebolt was launched. He was able to turn one of the two monsters to dust, but the other one survived though it was down again from damage. Unfortunately, Belle went mined down from the overuse of magic. At that time, the magic-using Demi-spirit had regenerated and started to chant, but Lefia's Arc's ray was unable to stop its chanting. Conclusion: with Lefia unable to stop the Demi-spirit's chanting, suddenly, there was a big explosion as Welf used Will-O-Wisp to cause Ignis Fatuus. That stopped the chanting, while some minor damage also confused the Demi-spirit. Otter then jumped into action against the other large monster while Hogni carried Belle to Lefia and Filvis. Otter, with a faint golden glow, looked positively dangerous in battle. As Filvis poured more potions on Belle, Lefia started chanting another spell. Otter and Hogni were fighting the monster pretty evenly. Otter's large blade was able to do some serious damage against the monster even while the monster also delivered serious damage to Otter. The magic-using Demi-spirit also starting chanting again, but Welf waited for the best time to cause another Ignis Fatuus. That explosion did some damage, but then the Demi-spirit looked at Welf realizing Welf was the cause of the spell failure. It then did a quick chant icicle edge attack against Welf who did not have the time to react. The ice severely damaged Welf. With Welf knocked out, the Demi-spirit started chanting again. Suddenly a huge wind impacted on it. AIS had finally recovered enough to fight, and launched an aerial attack. Seeing AIS fighting, Tiona, Tyon, Gareth and Revisa also got up to help. Frustrated with their own weakness and unwilling to stay defeated, Beat and Alan also stood up to fight. Tiona, Tyon and Gareth went to assist AIS while Beat and Alan went to help Otter and Hogni. With the help of Tiona, Tyon and Gareth, AIS was able to prevent the Demi-spirit from launching any serious magic. Every time they were knocked down, they got up again to keep fighting. At the same time, the tide was turned with Otter, Hogni, Alan and Beat ganging up on the other large monster. Otter though realized he had a time limit on his enhanced level. Lefia then yelled, "Get away now." Lefia then launched another Rhea Levitine after her allies were able to get a sufficient distance from the monsters. The spell burned away the top human halves of the monsters as Lefia fell down from Mine 0. While the two monsters were regenerating, AIS launched her Lil Rafaga at the magic-using Demi-spirit, killing it. With the advantage, Otter had the chance to get many deep slashes into the other monster, disabling it. Everyone then jumped in to finish off the monster, while Revisa checked on Belle and Lefia. It was a hard-earned victory. They now had to tend to the wounded and the dead. Injuries and recovery after the defeat of the 3 Demi-spirits, the wounded were treated, while the unconscious Belle, Lefia and Welf were given lap pillows to help with their recovery. Unfortunately, several junior Loki members did not survive the battle. Realizing they were very vulnerable, Otter, Gareth and Revisa agreed to retreat back up to the surface. With AIS carrying Belle, Tiona carrying Lefia, and Alan carrying Welf, they were able to quickly return to the surface. Freya and Loki were eagerly waiting at the Knossos entrance when they reached the surface. There were many hugs and tears. Freya immediately checked on Belle, who was carried up by AIS. When Freya patted his hair and kissed his cheek, it caused a very blue feeling in AIS even though it was his goddess. Loki, Revisa and Gareth hugged while crying over the lost members. Together, they took Belle, Lefia, Welf and those who needed treatment to the hospital. Everyone was also happy to learn that Finn was safe and already recovering in the hospital. That night, Belle, Welf and Lefia were kept in the hospital close to Finn. They were kept in one big room so Tiona, Tyon and AIS could stay with them. The next morning, Freya, Otter and Loki went to visit their children. Finn was already up to meet them and appeared to be fully recovered. When they went in the large recovery room, it was hard for Loki and Freya to watch, as AIS slept peacefully hugging the rabbit. Short after, Belle, Welf and Lefia all woke up, and all seemed okay. However, Loki and Lefia were really upset watching AIS still peacefully hugging the embarrassed rabbit as she slept with a cute smile. After Belle had to survive another 10 minutes of death stares, AIS finally woke up. She realized everyone was looking at Belle and her, but was fine with it. It was time to go home, but there would be funeral services to bury the dead Loki members including Line. After returning back to the Folkvanga, Freya updated Belle and the jump in magic stats was the most incredible. While Belle could level, Freya suggested to wait on his other stats and Belle agreed. There would soon be a lot of training with Ais, Tiona, and Otter, while Freya would be focusing on Heroheim's training. They needed to find ways to improve on her boosting, as Otter's boosted level was incredibly important to the mission. After a bath and some good food, it was time for the funeral service. There were many tears and hugs there, and there was a lot of anger, particularly against Valletta and a few others who needlessly killed Line and many others. Beat also went out of control. He was furious that the weaklings went sent into the Knossos to their death when everyone knew how difficult it would be. At the end, he stormed out of the service. There was unfinished business with the Knossos and those behind it. Bell Cranel level 3 strength, 746 endurance, 951 agility, 923 dexterity, 860 magic, 1198 skill, Argonaut magic, firebolt development ability, luck, abnormal resistance. After the funeral services, Loki sent Ais and Tiona to search for Beat. At the training facility, Otter and Freya continued to manage the training of Heroheim, Welf and Lily. At the city wall, Bell trained with Tyon for the day while Ais and Tiona searching for Beat. With Bell having taken a significant leap in stats after the mission, the training got even tougher. Still, with her advantages over Bell, Tyon gave Bell many lap pillows, which was quite embarrassing given his view of her assets when he woke up. Nevertheless, Bell's improvements were obvious as he hit Tyon quite a few times. With their realistic training, more and more healing potions were needed. That evening, Bell went to visit Heroheim at her room, but found her sleeping while reading a storybook. Being curious, he checked on which storybook she was reading, but found that the pages were blank. The next morning, at breakfast, Bell saw an excited Heroheim talking to Freya and Otter, so he asked why. Heroheim, Goddess Freya just did an update and I now have a new spell called Kokonu. It allows me to have multiple tails. Now I can boost multiple people at the same time. Bell, wow, this sounds great. Freya, Bell, this needs to be confidential. Otter, confidentiality is critical for the Familia and for Heroheim's safety. It made a difference in the battle against the Demi-spirits. Bell, yes. After breakfast, Bell went to meet Ais, Tiona, and Tyon for training again. Tiona, Ais, and Tyon were keeping an eye on the crazy wolf who had gone amok. Bell, I hope he is okay. Tiona, Wolvie will be fine. So I will train with you today. Argonaut Ku and Bell, thank you. Tiona, you will receive many lap pillows today, making Bell red. After lunch, they detected many battles in the city. Instead of training, they went off to check on what was happening. Apparently many Barbellas were being attacked by assassins. Tiona and Bell went to help and saved many of them. They also took the injured ones to the hospital as their wounds would not heal. This kept them busy most of the day and evening, as Loki members were involved in the mission all over the city. The next day, Ais and Tiona met Bell for training in the morning. Ais, Bell, sorry that I could not train with you. I was involved with Beat's situation. Tiona, but the apparent war with the assassins is over. Beat destroyed the assassins and the Thanatos Familia. He got revenge for our younger members who were killed in the mission. Ais, it was a huge battle, but Beat literally incinerated all of them including Valletta who was their captain. Bell, wow, Beat is incredible, making Ais pout. Ais, but Beat is missing so we are still looking for him. Bell, I hope he is okay, making Ais pout some more. Tiona, we can only train in the morning. We need to help look for the wolf in the afternoon. After training, Bell went back to the Folkvenga and found that Welf and Lily could go into the dungeon in afternoons. Apparently their training was only in the mornings as Freya and Otter had to focus on Heroheim's training. That evening, Bell discussed what happened with Freya and Otter. Freya, yes, Beat defeated all of them by himself. Otter, we will soon have to go back into the Knossos to finish the job. Bell, when will that start? Freya, Loki wanted to start in 5 days, but a war is brewing with Raikia. Otter, there could be a war, but a stupid war that would be very one-sided in our favor. Freya, if war comes, our Familia will be taking part in it. By the end of the week, Bell's stats climbed a lot during the week with the training and saving the Barbellas. By the end of the week, he was ready to level with his stats beyond S level. Strength, 1125 endurance, 1238 agility, 1206 dexterity, 1137 magic, 1341 skill, Argonaut magic, firebolt development ability, luck, abnormal resistance. The march with all stats beyond S level, Bell elected to level 4. Afterwards, Freya gave him several meaningful kisses on both cheeks, making Bell feel very stimulated. Freya, little one, you earned a new skill and a new development ability. The skill is Ox Slayer, probably from your battle with the heavenly cow Demi-spirits. The ability is Escape, probably from you running away from the Demi-spirits. Bell wow, thank you goddess, which earned him another kiss on the cheek. The historic level up to level 4 made many angry in Rio. Lefia refused to come out of her room, even for AIS. Beat ran amok again, but this time went to the dungeon to take out his frustrations. Many adventurers, who were still in disbelief about his level 3, were in mourning yet again. Even those in his Familia were frustrated as they knew they could never compete in Freya's eyes. Rumors were rampant about what happened in Freya's chambers. Freya took it all in stride, and planned to tease the other gods about it at the next Denatus. Bell did have a private celebration with Lily, Welf, and Haraheim at the hostess. Besides Bell's level up, Welf also reached level 2, so there was much to celebrate. Syr and Ryu joined them in the party, and Welf got so drunk that he had to be carried back. As he was being carried back, Welf made comments about winning Hephaestus over. The next morning, Bell wanted to get as much training in before the war with Raikia starts in earnest. AIS, Tyon, and Tiona were all training with Bell for the morning. Their standard begging were tried again, but Bell was still unable to tell them how to improve faster. After more asset-based begging, AIS got angry again, bashing the twins. With Bell's level up, the battle became yet even more realistic. After receiving a few lap pillows, Bell finally earned a knockout of AIS, and gave her a lap pillow. The twins were shocked that a new level 4 managed to actually defeat a level 6, even if it was a lucky strike. AIS woke up on Bell's lap. "Oh Bell, you managed to defeat me for the first time," Tiona teased. "AIS, you are getting too easy for Bell." AIS gave Bell meaningful look and then pouted. "You are going to surpass me, Bell Kuin." Bell was embarrassed by the compliment. "AIS, I just got lucky." AIS looked needy. "Are you going to be my hero?" Tomato read Bell, "But you are stronger than me." "Of course I would want to be your hero if I can be strong enough," making AIS blush deeply. For the rest of the morning, though, Bell did not earn any more knockouts, but the sisters continued to have their contest about Bell lap pillows. After lunch, Bell, Lily, Welf went into the dungeon with Mikoto, Uka, and Chigusa. They reached the 13th floor but returned to the surface for dinner. That night, Freya made an announcement at dinner. Freya, Mars, and Raikia have started an attack on Rio. The fool still has not learned his lesson. So we will have to put a hold on the Knossos and march to the battlefield tomorrow morning. We are responsible for the northern front of the battle, while the Loki Familia has the responsibility for the middle, and the southern front will be manned by the Hermes and Hephaestus Familia. Otter to Bell, you, Welf, and AIS will be together at the border between the north and the center fronts, making Bell excited as he will be in a camp with AIS. That night, Freya gave Bell a last update before the march to war. Level 4 Strength, 27 Endurance, 23 Agility, 31 Dexterity, 22 Magic, 23 Skill, Argonaut, Ox Slayer Magic, Firebolt Development Ability, Luck, Abnormal Resistance, Escape Boredom. The next morning, the Freya Familia marched off to war with a group 50 strong. They took their positions in the northern sector, while Bell, Welf, and another level 1 went towards the Loki Familia sector to meet up with AIS and a level 2. They could see the Raikia army amassing in the distance, so AIS took off in aerial to scare them away. That tactic worked really well. With the Raikian army scattering and running from the Sword Princess, Bell fired off a firebolt that hit and destroyed the enemy flag. For a good show, AIS chased them for a bit so the enemy ran for their life. After that, no enemy dared showed up for the rest of the morning. They did have a nice lunch when Bell took a wild deer. During the deer hunt, they saw a couple rabbits, and everyone gave Bell a mischievous smile. In the afternoon, they got so bored that Bell and AIS sparred to train, while Welf and the others took turns keeping watch. For dinner, they had more of the venison while Bell and Welf went off to find some wild vegetables and fruits based on Bell's knowledge of farming and surviving in the wild. That evening, a few enemy soldiers tried to do a sneak attack, but were quickly dealt with by Bell and AIS. With 5 enemy soldiers tied up, they went back to their dinner before Rio units came to pick up the captives. During the night watch, Bell and AIS had the first watch. With everyone sleeping, they got the chance to have some private time. Kissing felt good and kind of naughty with everyone around. In fact, with enemy soldiers possibly nearby, it increased the excitement for the 2 young adventurers. The steamy action continued during their watch until Welf woke up and teased them badly. After Welf was punished, AIS hugged her teddy bear to go to sleep. However, no enemy showed up during the night watch. The next morning, a very large group of enemy soldiers showed up. This time there appeared to be an experienced soldier pushing them forward. Belle and Ais led the attack, with Ais again using Ariel to scare off as many as possible. There was no point to hurt anyone. With Ariel, many soldiers started to run away, but the leader started threatening them with death for abandoning their post. Seeing the problem, Ais headed over to the leader who was shaking with fear when he saw Ais. When Ais launched a warning shot with Ariel, the leader literally wet his pants and could not stand the pressure anymore. That led to another rout, though this time with over 200 soldiers surrendering to Belle and Ais. They almost ran out of rope to tie up the captives, but they settled for tying the soldiers' hands to each other. Fortunately, Urario units soon came to pick up the large number of captives. With the massive defeat, there were no more Raikia units for the rest of the day. Then Freya and Otter came to check on them during dinner time, and were amazed with the feast that was cooking from the venison as well as some ducks that were shot down by Belle. With Firebolt, cooking birds was very convenient as the fire and explosion mostly feathered the birds. Before leaving, Freya gave Belle a quick update. It was the least progress Freya had ever seen with Belle. That night, there was no trouble during the night watch. Level 4 strength, 31 endurance, 25 agility, 36 dexterity, 24 magic, 26 skill, Argonaut, Ox Slayer magic, Firebolt development ability, luck, abnormal resistance, escape. The next morning, there soon was another rout in another portion of the battlefield. Fortunately, Asfi had captured Mars, so the war was quickly over. It was a short camping trip that wasted a lot of training time but little else. After they returned to Urario, Ais had to return to the Twilight Manor to be in the Nosso's planning. So Belle and Welf found Lily to go to the dungeon. They were fortunate that Mikoto, Uka and Chigusa were also free. With Belle being level 4 traveling with 3 level 2 and 2 level 1, they were able to quickly reach the mid-levels. There were some Minos, Silverbacks, Almirages, and otherwise not much resistance. So they were able to get to Revisa for lunch. After lunch, some adventurers came to them asking for help as there were problems with firebirds on the 19th floor. Wanting to be helpful, Belle and friends went with the adventurers to the 19th floor. The girl, after some convincing by a few adventurers in the form of a reward, Belle, Welf, Lily, Mikoto, Uka, Chigusa agreed to assist those adventurers with some firebirds. They followed the adventurers to the 19th floor and did see a lot of firebirds that were causing trouble. Belle started to attack the monsters using Firebolt and chased them for a good distance. Eventually, Belle was lost. As he circled around, he noticed someone off to the side. Belle eventually found what may be a Vueva sitting on the ground. He was not sure though because Vuevas had a snake lower half but the girl had 2 legs. At first, he did not want to interact with monster, but the girl started crying when a firebird attacked. With no choice, Belle saved her, treated her wounds with a potion, and even covered her with the salamander wool. When several adventurers went by looking for a rare monster, he told them that she was a comrade. Ultimately, Belle took the girl back to the 18th floor. There, he found his party and had them follow him to a secluded area to introduce them to the girl. His party members freaked out when they realized the girl was a Vueva. Lily angrily accused Belle of having a monster fetish, which Belle denied. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, the girl spoke. Afterwards, Belle wanted to take the girl back to the surface, but Lily argued against it. Finally, Lily relented but advised Belle to take the girl to the surface at night when there are less people outside. After sneaking the girl to the surface, Belle, Lily, and Welf headed towards the Folkvanga after saying good night to their take-member friends. When they got near home, they did not know what to do. Lily thought some more and suggested Belle to show the girl to the goddess outside the Folkvanga. Thus, Lily and Welf stayed with the girl while Belle went to talk to the goddess and Otter. Fortunately, it was late so many members were already in their rooms. So Belle knocked on the doors of Freya's chamber. Freya was happy to invite Belle inside but instantly realized that Belle was troubled. Freya, little one, what is wrong? Belle, goddess, I have a favor to ask of you. Freya, really? You have never asked for one before. Belle, I would like you and Lord Otter to meet someone outside. Freya, such an interesting request. Sure, let's go get Otter. After going to Otter's room, the 3 of them headed outside. Belle then took them to a secluded area in a small park near the Folkvanga. It was quite dark except for the lantern they had with them. Soon, Freya and Otter saw the girl with Welf and Lily. Freya, what is this? I have to say I am surprised. Lily, goddess. Freya, I hope you are not angry. Belle, goddess, I found her crying and hurt. So I helped her and brought her here for safety. Otter, I have never seen anything like this, Freya. I am not angry, little ones. I must admit I do not know quite what to do. Thinking for a while, Freya decided to take the girl to their training facility. They could cordon off an area for the girl while they decided what to do. The group then headed to the training facility and put the girl into a spare room. Belle and Lily also came up with a name for the girl, Ween. Freya, little one, you can sleep in this facility for now, but we need to gather some information about this. I have never heard of talking monsters before. Otter, Welf and Lily, you can stay here with Belle also. Make sure this is completely confidential between us. Do not even talk to Familia members about this until I approve it. Welf and Lily, understood, sir. That night, Belle, Lily, and Welf camped out in the training facility. They decided that they would also try to gather information on intelligent monsters the next day. At Uranos' chamber, at the same time, Fels reported to Uranos that an intelligent monster was taken out of the dungeon by the Freya Familia. Shocked, Uranos asked who did it. When Fels answered it was the record holder, he gave Uranos hope that there could be a chance for the monsters. In Freya's chamber, Freya and Otter discussed the strange situation. Freya, Otter, there has never been any mention of talking monsters. Otter, the closest situation is monsters eating magic stones to get stronger. There are the black monsters. Never talking intelligent monsters. Otter, we need to find a resolution for this. This is an incredibly dangerous situation. Enemies will use this against us if they found out. Freya, I believe there is nothing I would not do for the little one, especially when he asked so nicely. Otter, yes, I see that. Freya, are you jealous? Otter, Otter, no, my lady. I will support you as always. Freya, thank you, Otter. A solution. The next morning, Welf stayed with Ween at the training facility while Lily went to Rio to investigate, and Belle maintained normalcy by training with Ais and the twins. Freya also went to investigate herself by going directly to Uranos. In a shady pub, Lily has experience in dealing with shady people in these shady places. So Lily used Cinderella to impersonate a young elf girl and proceeded to start asking questions. After leaving a very large tip, she asked the master if he had any information on talking monsters. Although the master had no useful information, a Chianthrope sat next to her and offered some information for money. After paying her, Lulian revealed that certain adventurers were very interested in talking monsters. After Lily tried to dig deeper about who those adventurers were, Lulian got suspicious. So Lily quickly left and went into a crowd before dropping her cloak and changing her appearance to a male dwarf. At the city wall, Belle met with Ais and the twins, and the training was on. Belle managed to knock Ais out one more time during the morning, while Ais got Belle herself several times. Tiona teased Ais, "You are really falling for the Argonaut." Tyon teased, "Ais is getting to be really easy." Ais pouted, "Belle, you need to know, take out Tiona and Tyon also." "Not just me." Belle got nervous. "I am trying as hard as I can. I only got lucky against you." Tiona laughed. "Yes, Argonaut gets lucky with Ais often. LOL. That was it for Ais, as she chased Tiona and beat her up. During lunch, Belle wanted to find out what Ais felt about monsters. Belle, Ais-san, are all monsters bad? Ais, yes, I must kill all monsters. Belle, what if a monster is kind? Ais, confused, there are no kind monsters. They must all be eliminated. Deciding this was a dead end, Belle let the topic drop. After lunch, he went back to the training facility to check on Welf and Ween. At the guild, Freya went towards Uranos' chamber, but several guards tried to stop her. Smiling at them, the guard immediately dropped their guard with silly smiles on their faces. As she walked into Uranos' chambers, a deep voice called out to Freya. "Uranos, it has been a long time, Freya. What is the reason for the visit?" Freya, Uranos, do talking intelligent monsters exist? Uranos, so the record holder brought the monster to you? Freya was not surprised. Yes, he did. How long have these intelligent monsters existed? Uranos, even I am not sure myself, but at least for the last 15 years. Freya, how many are there? Uranos, they are known as Zenos. As far as I know, there are more than 20 but less than 100. Freya, are they powerful? Uranos, at least 3 can rival first-class adventurers. One may be similar to Otter. Actually, Freya, are they dangerous? Aurano, I believe they want to coexist in peace, but some are very jaded. Freya, what should I do with the one that my child brought to the surface? Uranos, that one is harmless and in fact defenseless. However, Rio is not ready to accept intelligent monsters. I believe that one should return to the dungeon to be with its kind. Freya, why have you not told us about the Zenos Uranos? Because some have been trying to hunt them down. Hermes and Ganesha are aware of them. I have been in touch with the Zenos through intermediaries. I am trying to help them. Freya, would I have your assistance to get the Zenos back into the dungeon? Uranos, yes. Would I have your support in the future when I try to bring the Zenos topic public? Freya, yes, as long as they are not dangerous. With that, Freya went back to the Folkvanger to discuss with Otter. At the training facility, while Welf watched over Wien, Harrowheim accidentally stumbled into their area despite their best precautions. Harrowheim and Wien took an immediate liking to each other, and they started to play together. Knowing that they messed up, Welf realized it was too late to do much about it. An hour later, Freya and Otter went to the training facility and saw Harrowheim and Wien playing together. Welf, Goddess Freya, I apologize for my failure to keep the room secure. Freya, that is fine. It is good that they are playing together after a short time. Bell returned to the facility as the group was eating lunch. Bell was surprised to see Harrowheim there with Wien, but was glad they were having fun together. As Harrowheim and Wien were playing, Freya and Otter had a talk with Bell, Lily, and Welf. Freya, I did some investigation and found out that Uranos knows about intelligent talking monsters known as Zenos. There are many of them, numbering somewhere between 20 to 100. Freya, little one, Uranos does not believe it is safe for Wien to remain here as the surface world is not ready to accept Wien and those like her. Bell, that is not fair. Freya, well, Wien can stay here for now. But it is like a jail for her. She cannot leave this facility for her good and our good. Bell, thank you, Goddess Freya. Bell, think about this. It may be better for Wien for her to return to the dungeon. Bell pouted, but she cannot protect herself, which broke Freya's heart. Freya, I will look into this. Uranos promised he will help. Suddenly Otter said calmly, you should show yourself now. Bell ? Suddenly, Fells showed himself in his black robe, shocking Bell, Welf, and Lily. Fells, of course the warlord would be able to detect my presence. I have a message from Uranos. Freya, go ahead and tell us. They can all hear the message. Fells, Uranos said that he can arrange safe passage for the Zenos. You call Wien tomorrow late in the evening. If you want to take advantage of this offer, let us know soon. Bell, but Wien is defenseless in the dungeon. Fells, there are others like her that would take care of her. We have contacted them already. Bell. Freya, please give this message to Uranos. We appreciate the offer, but we want a few days to think it over. Fells, I understand. Then fades out. Freya, little one, spend the next few days to think it over. But it would be too dangerous for Wien to go outside. Bell bowed, thank you, Goddess, which earned him a small kiss on the cheek. Freya wanted Wien to be guarded, but could only post guards outside due to the sensitive nature of the situation. To offer extra protection, Welf, Lily, and Harrowheim would stay the first night, while Bell would stay the second night. They would have to rotate like that as long as Wien is staying there. That evening, Bell, Freya, and Otter returned to the Folkvanger, while Welf, Lily, and Harrowheim stayed with Wien. Before bed, Bell received an update: level 4 strength, 62 endurance, 55 agility, 68 dexterity, 49 magic, 48 skill, Argonaut, Ox-Slayer magic, Firebolt development ability, luck, abnormal resistance, escape. The next day, they tried to maintain what normalcy they could. Bell had training with Ais and the twins in the morning. Harrowheim had her training with Otter in the morning. Welf continued to practice his magic and fighting technique himself, while Lily went to the Folkvanger for strategic training. When Bell returned, Freya and Otter went to meet with Loki for the upcoming Knossos mission. It was agreed that the mission would start in 3 days, with the combined forces of Loki, Freya, Hermes, and Hephaestus Familias, while the Ganesha Familia was the reserve. That night, it was Bell's turn to stay with Wien. In the middle of the night, Bell was awakened by fighting and screams outside. This would be all for today. Next part coming soon, so please like, share, and subscribe to get informed as soon as the next part drops.